Over on the west end, we've got a crash blocking the right lane, 440 westbound near I-40. Rivergate still stop-and-go traffic due to road work, 65 northbound between Vietnam Veterans and Louisville Highway. That's a 7-minute delay. Glencliff, a crash, 40 eastbound after Spence Lane. I'm Ken Weaver.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. It's Brian Wilson filling in for Matt Murphy, who is taking a couple of days off. I'll be here today and tomorrow on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Yes, I'm still around. I'm the host emeritus, the backup third string reserve host emeritus of Last Resort. I'm here to fill in for you and hope that you are settled in for a lot of good content and a lot of good discussion today. Got a lot of ground to cover. I think we have to start with the thing that I think is on the minds of so many people, and that's what's going on with Iran. Now, I'm aware that this issue with Iran, even in conservative circles, there are some people who support what the president is doing and some people who do not support what the president is doing. And I get that and I understand it. I even respect it. But the thing about it is I've come down to the opinion that Trump is doing absolutely the right thing. Assisted by the leadership of Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth and others in this administration, I think they finally came to the realization that they were going to have to do something. Now, everybody said, oh, you're being led down the primrose path by Benjamin Netanyahu, and I don't buy that at all. I don't think Donald Trump gets led down any path by anybody. So I'm okay with what's being done because, yeah, I mean, are there some bad things that happen when you drop a lot of bombs on a country? Yes. Do people die? Yes. Are there accidents? Yes. Are we going to lose some people? Unfortunately and sadly, yes, we will. But in the grand scheme of things, all of that pales in comparison, in my estimation, to what would happen if Iran actually got a nuclear weapon and lobbed it at somebody. That's the thing that was getting close. Everybody, well, we've been hearing that for years. Well, it's because every time we get close, we do something that disrupts what they're doing. But they had the nuclear material to build 11 nuclear weapons. They weren't very far off from getting it done. We sort of got up against the wall. Israel, of course, this is right in their backyard. Their missiles are in range of Iran, and of course they're very nervous about it. And yes, they did come, and so we got to do something about it. But it's not in the United States national security interest to allow Iran to get the bomb. It's upsetting the folks at NATO, and Trump is completely upset with the folks in NATO. I'm on board with it. If you're not on board with it, I hear what you're saying. I have respect for your position, and and it's not a position without merit. It's just one that I don't completely agree with. I think we're doing the absolute right thing here. It's my estimation of that, and I think that at the end of the day, a weakened Iran is in the national security interest of the United States. It's in the national security interest of Israel. It's in the national security interest of the region, and a weakened Iran is a safer world, in my estimation. How we resolve it and what the future looks like going forward, I think, is a question that's up in the air right now as these negotiations go on. But when you decapitate a great deal of the leadership and destroy their military capability, and you say we're gonna open up the Strait of Hormuz and we're gonna go in there and we're gonna get that nuclear material and we're gonna dispose of it properly, All those things, I think, are in the best national security interest of the United States. J.D. Vance believes that the president holds a lot of the cards in these negotiations that are going to happen. And by the way, J.D. Vance, one of the negotiators who will sit down across from the Iranians and try to work out, a lasting peace. But he says we hold the cards in these negotiations, and he thinks that President Trump, even though J.D. Vance was not apparently on board 1,000% with this action, he believes that the president holds the cards in these negotiations.
This is one of the things that's going to be one of the main subjects of negotiation, is that we want Iran to not be able to make a nuclear weapon. We want the nuclear fuel, which is something the president has made very clear. And there's, again, the way to think about this is the United States has certain demands and certain things that we want. The Iranians have things they can get out of the negotiation. The more that they're willing to give us, I think the more they're going to get things out of this negotiation. The president's talked about sanctions relief. The president's talked about economic partnerships and things like that. That's not going to happen unless the Iranians make a firm commitment to stop anything close to the development of a nuclear weapon. And frankly, the president has all the cards here. We've got a lot of leverage. We've got a lot of things that we can do. But right now, I think that we're in a good spot.
I think so, too. I think we are in a good spot. Now, one of the things that has developed as sort of an unexpected outcome here is that the president of the United States is completely upset with NATO allies who did not come to our aid, who did not come to our assistance. Not all of them. Some did, but not all of them. And he is very upset with NATO. There was a big meeting with the leader of NATO, Mark Rutte, yesterday. And then Rutte sat down with Jake Tapper over at CNN to discuss, how that all went. The president is said to be contemplating what kind of action should be taken against NATO allies who were not interested in helping us. We're there. We got their back. But when we needed a little help here and there, and we didn't need much, but we needed some. We need to be able to land planes in certain places. We need to be able to fly over France, for goodness sakes, and all of those things. He's very upset about where we are right now with NATO, and Mark Rutte of NATO says, I get that.
Well, let me be absolutely clear. He is clearly disappointed with many NATO allies, and I can see his point. But at the same time, I was also able to point to the fact that the large majority of European nations has been helpful with basing, with logistics, with overflights, with making sure that they lived up to the commitments. And there is also widespread support for the fact that degrading the nuclear and the ballistic missile capacity from Iran was really crucial. And that only the US was able at this point to do that. I also pointed him to the positive, but clearly this was a very frank, a very open discussion, but also discussion between two good friends.
The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the president is weighing punishing some NATO allies for not being helpful to the U.S. and Israel during the war. Quote, the proposal would involve moving U.S. troops out of NATO member countries deemed unhelpful to the Iran war effort and station them in countries that were more supportive of the U.S. military campaign. Did the president talk about that at all today?
Again, it was a very frank, it was a very open discussion.
Very frank and very open.
He clearly told me what he thought of what happened over the last couple of weeks.
Some countries specifically said, you can't use our bases, you can't even fly over our airspace. Spain, France.
Yeah, but listen, the large majority, including France, of European nations has been doing what they committed before they would do in a case like this.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not worried at all, 10 being terrified, where do you leave Washington thinking President Trump, your opinion of President Trump wanting to leave NATO? Are you 1, I'm not worried at all, 10, I'm really worried Trump is going to pull out of NATO?
Well, I'm not going to get into that, answering that question.
I'm just trying to get an answer.
No, I understand that. But what I felt today, this was a meeting between friends. Because we like each other. I really admire his leadership, and he knows what he did in The Hague last year at the NATO summit has been crucial, and NATO allies are with him when it comes to the aims of taking out, as I said, degrading the nuclear and the ballistic missile capacity of the Iranians.
Yeah, but Europeans wanted to do it through diplomatic means.
Yeah. I know, but we run the risk that this would lead into the North Korea moment.
Listen to this. This is his strongest point, and the one that we should pay attention to. We waited too long on North Korea, and North Korea got a nuclear weapon because we waited, and we waited, and we dillied, and we dallied, and we just can't allow Iran to do that.
Where you talk so long that at a certain moment it's beyond the point where you can still get this done, because then they would get their hands on the nuclear capacity. And that is basically a big risk for Europe. It is existential for Israel. It is existential for the Middle East. So the whole world is safer by this president degrading those capabilities.
You know, if I were France and Spain and I witnessed Iran launch a missile that traveled 4,000 kilometers in the other direction, but to Diego Garcia, we didn't know they had that capability. Basically, if you point that missile in the other direction, you could strike from Iran into the heart of Europe. And all of a sudden, I think a lot of European countries who did not want to get involved in this have come to the understanding that they are at risk, a lot more than the United States is. We always stand up and do the hard thing in the United States. That's what we do. We come in, people call it policemen of the world. I don't know. I'm glad that we went in. I'm glad that we degraded Iran. I'm glad that we are continuing to keep the pressure up on them. And I'm glad that we have had apparently some impact. But I do not understand how it is that NATO allies don't understand that they too are now at risk. Tremendous risk with all of this. All right, so what else is going on with regard to Iran? Well, you know, Congress, the Democrats in Congress, they're very interested in trying to challenge the president's authority to conduct these activities by trying to have a War Powers Act hearing in Congress. If you have ever listened to my thoughts about the War Powers Act, Congress passed a bill, and it says that you have to get permission from Congress after a certain period of time. Rest assured that the president is not in violation of the War Powers Act as it stands. And rest assured, there is a very, very valid and very solid legal argument that can be made that the War Powers Act is non-constitutional. It doesn't meet constitutional scrutiny. It's just never been tested. It's never been tested in the high court. And Democrat presidents, Republican presidents have gone about and done things like Donald Trump has done in Iran. And everybody always screams, oh, violation, even when it's Democrats, Republicans will say, violation of the War Powers Act. But a bunch of hooey. We don't know that the War Powers Act will stand up, and it's never really been tested in a court of law. I say test it. Let's find out. Do presidents have the authority to do this or not? See, the reason that most presidents don't want to challenge it is they really love the fact that they can sort of do what they need to do in the power of the moment, and when things are critical, in critical situations, they can do what they need to do and then go back to Congress and explain it without having to ask permission first. Democrat presidents have had that authority. Republican presidents have had that authority. He is the commander-in-chief, and I think it's unconstitutional to place limits on that responsibility that is given to him by the Constitution. I don't think the War Powers Act means anything. But if there is a discussion of the War Powers Act, one Democrat says he will not be in favor of rapping the president on the knuckles, and that would be John Fetterman of Pennsylvania.
What our military's accomplished is profound and significant and important. I mean, it has effectively destroyed its capabilities and destroyed its Navy. And they really haven't been able to really put a glove on us through this entire Epic Fury campaign. And furthermore, I would like to remind people too, every single Democrat running for president and every single Democrat in the Senate said we can never allow them to acquire a nuclear weapon. And now, if you want to talk about a war crime, you know, Iran is a 47-year-old war crime, what they continue to behave. So, you know, as a Democrat, I supported what President Trump did, you know, to actually call Iran accountable. And I think it's been successful. As you've discussed, and I agree, it's not finished yet, you know, but now where we are now, we are 38 days into it. I mean, the Ukrainian war is in over 4 years. You know, all these other kinds of conflicts are years. We're not even for 40 days yet. So where are we at right now? Yes, it's like if you make these kinds of let's go for the 25th Amendment, and then, you know, then we have a ceasefire, then it's like taco. I mean, you know, like you can't have it both ways. I mean, so where we are, it's like strange to be gleeful that, you know, that we still have to accomplish some things and make these kinds of statements. Now I'm reading that they now have to force another, you know, war powers vote, and I will vote against that now because we have to stand our military to allow them to accomplish, you know, the goals of epic fury.
Yeah, listen, I have to say, because I feel like I need to sort of do a little makeup here to John Fetterman. Because when he was first elected, I didn't have a lot of confidence in him. I wasn't sure that he should be in there. He told us that, you know, his problem with speech that came after some kind of mental, brain event, that he would get better with time, and he has. He's been true to his word there. But what I really love about the guy is he doesn't give a whit, you know, what the far left is saying. He looks at every issue and says, you know, on this, I think the president's right. And there are times when he says, I think the president is wrong on this. You know, there's a whole philosophy about how to have power in Congress and where the real power in Congress lies. And Fetterman has figured it out. I'll talk about that and some other stuff regarding the Iranian war and where we are. But right now, let's call it 20 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Fellas, let's talk for a moment. Now, you ladies can listen up, too, because if I describe anything that might relate to your fella, then you might want to nudge him and encourage him to get over to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. It's kind of a direct call to men. If you're feeling wiped out when you wake up, if your waistline is creeping up, bedroom confidence may be slipping. Friends, you feel it, you notice it, she notices it, and now it's time to do something about it. You don't have to suffer in silence. You don't have to accept that this is just the way things are. Tennessee Men's Clinic treated more men in Tennessee for performance-related issues than anyone else, and they have 7 separate clinics across this great state, and many right here in Middle Tennessee, like Cool Springs, like Clarksville, and like Nashville, Tennessee. Friends, this works. The treatment works, but it is unique to you and your situation. Patients are treated like people. You come in, and for less than $100, they take you back. They examine you from tip to stern. They get a little blood work from you. They see what's going on with your testosterone levels or whatever it might be. Friends, I want you to call and book that appointment today. You do not have to live like this, and you can get back in the game, men, with the Tennessee Men's Clinic, 615-208-9090, 615-208-9090, or online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Here's some of the surprise announcement at the White House by the First Lady today, coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That was my friend Ken Weaver. Hello, Ken.
What's going on, Brother Brian?
It is good to hear your voice, my friend. I don't get to see you very often.
Good to hear yours too, buddy.
Yeah, everything good? Everything good?
Everything's good. I noticed you got yourself a brand new little French bulldog.
Oh, yeah, I guess we do. We, after we got Grogu had her litter, and we tried to keep the little puppy, but they didn't get along at all.
Yeah.
And then shortly time later, we found a good home for Solo, which is the puppy. Mm-hmm. And Solo still comes to visit now and then.
All right.
But after that, we did what you should do with a mama dog. We got her spayed. Mm-hmm. Well, she became a much calmer dog.
Yeah,
that will happen.
Yes, it will.
And so we thought it might be time, and we happened to hear about this situation with a rescue litter of French bulldogs.
All right.
And so we decided that we wanted to try that. And so we have brought a little dog into our lives. He's a Merle. He's a beautiful dog.
He is,
I must
man.
say, as dogs go, this is probably one of the prettiest dogs I've ever seen, which is he basically looks like gray camo.
Yeah.
Imagine, somebody wearing, winter camo. That's what this dog looks like. Beautiful, beautiful coloring. And so his name is Bo.
Little Bo.
So Bo and Grogu. Grogu's here with me. Bo's over at the house. Cabana wife will be home in just a few moments, and so they're getting along great. They're doing just fantastic. So
excellent.
It's been a great addition to the household. We'll talk with you more. I want to bring you into the conversation that I'm going to have coming up after the news, which has to do with, I don't know. I have an electric car now.
Oh.
And I just got through making about a 400, 500 mile, round trip, about 1,000-mile round trip.
Yeah.
In this electric car. First time I've tried to go out cross country and try to do something like that with one that needs to be, it's not a hybrid. It needs to be charged up. And I have some very interesting observations about that. Some of them are good, some of them are not good. But I think it's interesting because everybody wants to know, Wilson, why did you get an electric car? And it works for a lot of things, but doesn't work for some of the other stuff. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. It was an interesting learning experience, I'll tell you that for sure. Hey, real quick on the headline, I talked about John Fetterman. John Fetterman is saying that he will not be voting to wrap the president's knuckles with the War Powers Act if it comes to that. And today there was an attempt to try to do that in the House of Representatives, but the Republicans were able to block that effort, and it is not moving forward at the moment. But I think it's really interesting because, Fetterman is an interesting guy. When he first came in, I wasn't sure that I liked John Fetterman. I thought he was probably not a great representative for the people of Pennsylvania. I've completely changed my mind about that. And I think he has learned, he's a shrewd guy. He learned how you really accrue power in the United States Senate. You say, well, you got to be in the leadership. No. In a closely divided United States Senate, the power is in the middle. Because, every vote is going to be close, right? If the Democrats, if they have something that they want to try to push through the Republicanly controlled Senate, they got to have all their votes in line. And therefore, to bring John Fetterman on board, he can pretty much tell him exactly what he needs and what it's going to take. He has real, genuine power with the Democrats. Now, the Republicans, they need him on occasion because they lose people like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski and others. And so you got to find another vote sometimes. And they have found that on occasion, they can deal with Fetterman. But Fetterman once again says, well, okay, this is what you need. This is what I need. He has real power. This was the same thing that the senator from West Virginia had figured out. What was the guy's name? He's out of sight and out of mind. The senator from West Virginia used to do this all the time. and say, we're gonna, I'm gonna need this and I'm gonna need that. But he was in the middle, and that's where the real power was. Fetterman has figured that out, and I think it's pretty interesting. In a moment, I took a trip in my electric truck down to the beach and back with Cabana Wife. And it was the first time that I've attempted to go any distance at all in this new totally electric vehicle. It was a very interesting experience, and I'll talk about it coming up after the news with Ken Weaver. It's 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Had a surprise announcement at the White House from First Lady Melania Trump, where she pushed back on rumors about her and the late Jeffrey Epstein and his convicted co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell.
Be cautious about what you believe. These images and stories are completely false.
First Lady didn't take any questions, but says she never had a relationship with Epstein or Maxwell and didn't know about any of Epstein's and Maxwell's crimes. Operation Epic Fury. Israel and Lebanon talks expected to begin next week in Washington at the State Department. Meanwhile, ABC News contributor and former State Department official, retired Colonel Steve Ganyard, says the idea that President Trump has suggested about charging a toll for ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz won't have much support.
There's nobody in the world that's going to support their position that they will be allowed to toll the Strait of Hormuz. So everybody from their Chinese friends, the Pakistanis on down, are going to say, nope, that's got to change. So that will be one of the key sticking points, because Iran is looking for ways that they're going to develop revenue sources that will rebuild their economy and rebuild their country.
Right now in Middle Tennessee, another crash involving a school bus on a field trip. A pickup truck driver injured in this crash with a Rutherford County school bus in Murfreesboro this morning. Collision happened on Manchester Pike near Fieldstone Drive. School bus transporting first graders to a field trip. No students or staff were injured. Tennessee Highway Patrol investigating what caused that crash. Meanwhile, News Channel 5 says personnel records reveal new details about the school bus driver involved in that deadly Kenwood Middle School crash. Documents showed the driver had no prior disciplinary actions and passed all required medical exams, though she was under periodic medical monitoring. A crash on March 27th killed 2 students, Ariana Pearson and Zoe Davis. Highway Patrol investigating. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, got a crash 40 eastbound at Church Street, Rivergate. Still stop and go traffic for road work. About a 10-minute delay, 65 northbound between Vietnam Veterans and Louisville Highway. Over on the East Bank, got a crash Shelby Avenue at Interstate Drive. Then on the West End, right shoulder blocked by a crash, 440 westbound near I-40. And in Laverne, got a stalled vehicle off-ramp partially blocked, 24 westbound off-ramp to Old Hickory Boulevard. Hermitage, a wreck, Old Hickory Boulevard, just south of Old Lebanon Dirt Road. I'm Ken Weaver.
38 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy. Be back on Monday. I'm going to be here today and tomorrow from 3 to 7. In the control room, pushing the blinky buttons as he does, is Jackson. Jackson, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I just want to say that I want to again offer my services as a negotiator between Matt Murphy's show and the Dan Mandis show. I understand, there's some harsh feelings that have been developed, and I'm here. Think of me as the Steve Witkoff of WTN. I'm willing to negotiate a truce between these two warring factions.
Oh, we're very excited for the legal proceedings.
And there's Ken Weaver in the newsroom. Ken, good afternoon to you again.
How about you boys?
Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good. Hey, listen, I took a trip the other day down to the beach. Wanted to go down to the beach and sort of have a motorhome, and so wanted to go down there and camp out, and get some beach time. And Cabana wife been looking for some beach time, and so we decided to go. Now, normally what happens in these situations, Ken, is that I will drive the van. We have a little Class B motorhome, small motorhome that you sleep in, and it's like a van. It's like a Sprint van kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I'll go down there, and then she flies in. And then, I'll get up and I'll get set up and I'll have the dog in the whole 9 yards and I'll get set up with the camp. And then she'll fly in and then rent a small car so we don't have to move the van around every time we want to go somewhere.
Right.
Because you want to go to the beach. You want to go over to the Red Bar and have some blackened grouper. On cheesy grits. Oh my goodness, that was so good. And you want to be able to move around down there. So that's the solution we came up with in the past. But recently, I bought an electric truck. It's an F-150 Lightning. Mm-hmm. In my shrewd negotiating for a vehicle, I bought a car, and the very next day, the Ford Motor Company decided they were no longer going to build this car.
Wow.
This truck, they canceled it. They're not building them anymore. Not pure electric trucks. But, since I've retired, I don't drive as much. And I thought, I could charge that up. I could drive for a whole week on $5 and then charge it again, because you get about 250, between 200 and 250 miles, depending on the temperature and the way you drive.
Yeah.
So I thought that's probably all I'm going to be doing. So that'll be great. Well, very glad to have that now that the price of gasoline has gone through the roof.
Yes, sir.
Here's where we are today. Davidson County, $3.98 a gallon. Williamson County, $4.13. Wilson County, $3.95. Rutherford, $3.97. Robertson, $3.99. Sumner, average, $3.95. Murray County, $3.92. Now, I looked at that and I said, you know what? I talked to Cabana wife, said, why don't you just drive the truck, follow me down there, and then we'll have the truck and we won't have to buy a bunch of gas. Mm-hmm. And so, just driving the van down there was about, it's about maybe, want to say $400 worth of gas down and back.
Yeah.
Sounds right?
Yep.
And so, I thought, well, if we're going to go and get a second vehicle, why don't we just drive the electric vehicle and save all that money? Because it doesn't cost near as much to charge up. So we did. And she met me at Buc-ee's at Athens, Alabama.
Yeah.
And we went to the Tesla charger. And there's a whole bank of Tesla chargers that the Ford Motor Company's cut a deal with Tesla so you can use their chargers. Got to have a little adapter. You plug it in, bap, you put it in. And, while you go in and use the bathroom and get a sandwich or a soda or something and come back, you're back up to 80%.
Nice.
So we thought that was pretty good. Went really well. Every other charging experience that we had after that one was a lot slower.
Really?
We lost an hour and a half on the way down, and we lost an hour and a half on the way back.
Oh, yeah.
And we kept trying to figure out, where do we stop, which charge, because some chargers charge slow and some charge fast.
Okay.
But none of them charged as fast as that Buc-ee's charger. But I mean, it took a while, and you would get there. And so we lost a lot of time. I think our sense of it is we're probably not going to try that again because it was just so frustrating.
Yeah.
To figure out. And then we got into a little headwind coming back, and that really knocked down how many miles we could get on a charge. And we had to stop about 4 times on the way back and just put a little in the tank to get to our next stop. And overall, it was just way too much to think about and to worry about.
Did you have to map out all your stops?
Yeah, you with the Ford system, you go into their navigation software,
okay,
and you say, I want to go here. And I want you to plot me a course and show me where all the good chargers are.
Okay.
So, we overrode some of Ford's choices, and maybe we should have gone ahead with Ford's choices. I don't know. But it seemed like one of the choices was going to make us drive a long way out of the way.
Yeah.
But we were able to, get back at everything. It was just a lot more work than we estimated.
Yeah. Once you get going, and then you're really wanting to get to
make
your
some
destination.
miles. That's right. As my daddy used to say, let's make a mile.
Yeah, an hour and a half pause would not be fun.
All told, an hour and a half on what would normally be about a 7-hour trip.
Yeah.
So that's 8.5 hours.
Yes, sir.
So, that wears you down a little bit,
Yes, sir.
You do need to stop for, you still have to stop for gas.
Yeah.
You still have to go to the bathroom. But
that's only
the thing
like
about
15 minutes.
Yeah, we could go in, you fill up the tank on the van and go and use the bathroom and grab a quick soda and come back to the van and you go.
Yeah, you're done.
And what we were finding with the electric vehicle is we were waiting about, I don't know, maybe another 15 minutes before we could go. So that was something that I think we decided we probably won't do that again. I will tell you this, though. It is great for one thing. Commuting. If you have to, like Cabana Wife drives 100 miles a day. 50 miles to her job, 50 miles back.
Yep.
And this is perfect for that. Because you know what what it cost me to charge that up at home?
How much?
Maybe $4 or $5.
Yeah.
The cost of a kilowatt hour of electricity is 43 cents.
Oh, that beats $43.
Yes, sir. For $43 for a tank. That's right. And so you go in and you top off. She drove it today, drove it over to her job, and is driving back. And you start at about 90% charge because you don't charge it to 100% every day because it makes the batteries last longer. So she gets back. She'll probably have around 40% left in the tank. And to top that off is probably going to cost me about $5. So, that's the advantage. For commuting, it's fine. Now,
right.
we could have easily taken her car, which is gasoline. We could have driven it down there and saved all that trouble and time. We were sort of experimenting to see, what it was like. And what we found is it works. But boy, you have to, as you are fond of saying, Ken, you got to pack your patience.
Yeah, and sometimes on the road, that patience just goes away.
Yep. When you're driving a long time, you just want to get there, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you can commute and keep it under 220 miles a day, this is a great outcome for you. This is a great thing. It was, yeah. There is one experience that I had. We pulled into this little, I don't know, they call it convenience store there called the Busy Bee. Sort of like Busy Bee, plumbing.
Yeah.
Well, this is Busy Bee, and it's like a convenience store. It's got a Starbucks in it, and you get gas, get a snack, that kind of thing. And they had a bunch of these Tesla chargers. There are a lot of Teslas. I've never seen so many Teslas.
Interesting.
And we got down there, there's like 8 of these chargers, and all 8 of them were filled up with Teslas. So you have to sit and wait for one of the slots to become open before you can charge the vehicle. So, that only happened to us one time, but that was another thing that was sort of frustrating. We just wanted to get back to our campsite and, have some dinner and relax for the evening. And here we are waiting on an open slot so we can charge our truck. I will say this. I love the truck. I mean, I've never driven a vehicle that goes faster than this truck. I've never driven a vehicle that will just peel your eyeballs back when you hit the accelerator.
That is one thing Brother Brian likes.
It goes from 0 to 80 in about nothing. I know. I bet it goes 0 to 60 in 4 or better.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it runs. I mean, I gave the keys to the pastor. My pastor said, hey, we get out on the road and I look around. And of course, I'm telling stories out of school because I don't want him to get in trouble because he's my pastor. But I said, just punch it. Just, hit it hard. He could not believe it. Nobody can. When you drive the thing, it's amazing how fast they are.
Interesting.
So anyway, I've had a real interesting experience. I still love my truck, and I still think it's good for what we do most of the time. But one of the things that I think is going to have to be solved is the range issue and what they call range anxiety.
Yeah.
Because, you don't want to be worried all the time. Do we have enough to get to our next stop?
Yeah, that'll wear you out, man. That type of anxiety on the road. I mean, you're already kind of keyed up just being on the road, but that
I
extra
just wanted
anxiety,
to get there, right? Yeah.
That would not be fun.
Now, you and I come from a part of the world where it's nothing to drive 500 miles in a day.
Nothing at all, especially.
I mean, 500 miles, we didn't blink an eye.
No.
We just got in the car and went.
And there wasn't much traffic either. Once you get west of Oklahoma City, there's very little traffic on I-40.
Boy, you're right about that.
I mean, it is open.
But, you could make a good, you could really make some time.
Yep.
Running, maybe, I don't know, couple mile an hour over the speed limit,
Yeah.
and you're doing some quick stops for gas, you can really get down the road. But, if you're looking for that, it ain't there yet.
It's got to get more stations.
Well, I think that's part of it, but I think also I think the real solution, honestly, and that's where Ford is headed with this, is the hybrid. With the hybrid, you can put a small gas-powered generator in the thing that constantly recharges the batteries when they start to get low.
Ooh, there you go.
And you can get a 500-mile range on it.
That would fix a lot of the
That would be a
issues.
thing. That would be something, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And to know that if your batteries were dead, you would never have the problem because the gas would charge the batteries back up.
Right.
No, I don't know.
Well,
For a lot of people, I don't know if this is the thing, but for the limited way that I use it, it's fantastic. For long trips, I don't think I'll ever do it again. I think I learned my lesson.
not until you get that back up.
No. It's 51 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
Matt Murphy, let's talk about your personal safety for a moment. Brink Fiddler comes on from time to time. We talk about the safety in America of the general population and what to do to make sure that you understand what to do in the case of a negative situation coming your way. Brink's never here to scare you. And when you go through the process with Defense Systems, and I've been through his program on several different occasions. I've done the TECC course, and I've also done his standard course that he delivers for churches and schools and, various business locations. Defense Systems is not here to frighten you, and they're not going to frighten your staff, but they are here to make you aware that we live in a dangerous world, and workplace violence situations happen. Active shooter situations happen. Emergency plans need to be in place. Intruder plans need to be in place at your place of business. What do you do in the event that something like this happens to you? Now, the possibility is very, very low, but it's not zero. That's why hope is never a plan. It is time to get trained, friends, with Defense Systems. If you're a decision maker at a school, at a church, at a place of business, you owe it to yourself and your staff to contact Brink Fiddler and Defense Systems. Call them at 615-236-6484, 236-6484, or online at defensesystems.com, defensesystems.com. Defense.com. This is customized to your facility, and it can be a lifesaver. It's certainly a game changer. Defense Systems. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for Cover Nash. Shane Ring and Cover Nash. They can help find the insurance program that's right for you. And all it takes is a telephone call to our friends over there. Shane does it all from right in Brentwood, and you can go by and see him in his Brentwood office, or you can do this over the phone, right? So what separates Cover Nash from everyone else? Well, first and foremost, they shop all of the insurance programs and plans that are available to you, for you, in the state of Tennessee. So they can find the right one for you, specific to your circumstance and situation. Whether you have a lot of family, whether you're just by yourself, whatever it might be, they're going to identify that. And oh, by the way, before you say, well, Murphy, this is April. There's nothing you can do in April, right? It's not open enrollment. Shane wants to help you understand. This is language used by companies that don't want you to be able to have the flexibility that you truly have. He can work out a program for you. You don't have to play by Washington's rules. Shane and Cover Nash can help cut your costs, in some cases, in half. If you're self-employed, uninsured, or just tired of paying too much, call 615-465-0023, 465-0023, or online at coverdash.com.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Right now in Middle Tennessee, authorities investigating after a body was found this morning near Nashville International Airport. Airport officials say the discovery made around 9:15 near Murfreesboro Road. Here's Channel 4's Sarah Allen.
I spoke with the disc golf store manager next to this lot, and he tells me that they do see homeless people around here often. And police came in earlier to ask him about a particular individual they were looking for.
It was, a large white male, disheveled, but I'd never seen him in the parking lot or anything before. I didn't know what was going on. Hadn't heard much before they asked. I knew the police weren't trying to buy a disc, so I knew something had to be up.
Now, another business I spoke with off camera tells me that they were very familiar with the man the police were asking about and saw him in the area just a few days ago. They told me that they believe he is homeless and previously have kicked him out and is known to cause issues around some of the businesses.
Yeah, the cause of death nor identity has been released. Officials say there's no impact to flights or airport operations. In a surprise announcement today, First Lady Melania Trump pushed back on claims that she says are false about a connection between her and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, saying any claims linking her to Epstein must stop.
To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell.
Now, the First Lady didn't take questions, but she did call on Congress to have women who are survivors, victims of Jeffrey Epstein, come forward and have an opportunity to testify. She said they should have a chance to tell their story in public. Here's ABC News' Karen Travers.
This was not something that the First Lady's office had teed up or previewed in any way before she was giving those remarks, just saying that she was coming out today at the White House to make an announcement. And she went through with some detail there, but not explaining what, if anything, she was specifically responding to, saying she is not one of Epstein's victims.
Operation Epic Fury, Israel-Lebanon talks expected to start next week in Washington at the State Department. Meanwhile, even though the Iranians claim the Strait of Hormuz has been reopened, maritime traffic is moving slowly. Not clear whether it will remain open for long. Gasoline prices in the U.S. have been soaring because of it. Experts say it's going to take some time for prices to stabilize if they do. Patrick DeHaan of Gas Buddy says not all maritime traffic is getting through.
It's not just necessarily opened or closed on or off. There is a degree here. According to reports yesterday, we didn't see any oil carriers getting through the Strait of Hormuz, but we did see bulk carriers getting through. So maybe some light at the end of the tunnel here, but gas prices are going to be very much tied to whether or not we see more ships, or if we don't, we could easily go back up.
Gas Buddy putting the average price per gallon here in Middle Tennessee at $3.98. That's up 73 cents since last month. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, over on the East Loop, it looks like they're about to get this crash cleaned up at Shelby Avenue and Interstate Drive. Rivergate, we've still got stop-and-go traffic, about a 10-minute delay, 65 northbound between Vietnam Veterans and Louisville Highway due to road work. By the airport, a crash, 40 westbound at Briley Parkway East. Then on the west end, right shoulder blocked by a crash, 440 westbound near 40 West. Spring Hill, a crash, 65 northbound past Saturn Parkway. That's going to be exit 53. And in Hermitage, a crash, Old Hickory Boulevard, just south of Old Lebanon Dirt Road. I'm Ken Weaver.
Hey, it is 6 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I have adjusted my clock. Apparently, how does this happen? On all this modern technology around me, and my clock was 2 minutes off. Anyway, it's 7 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy. Ken Weaver is in his little newsroom cubicle, and Jackson is over there pushing all the blinky buttons, as he always does. I grew up, in the 50s and 60s as a kid. I was born in 1956, so you can figure out how old I am. I'm ancient. And I grew up in West Texas, and my parents, we didn't think so much about conservative and liberal back in the days, but my parents were rather conservative, I think, from a standpoint of how they raised their kids. We didn't get a lot of things. We had a nice middle-class upbringing in the oil patch. My dad worked in oil-related industries there in the oil patch of West Texas, and that's where I spent most of my formative years, with the exception of about 18 months when we lived in Denver on a transfer. But, pretty good life, not given a lot of things. But the one things that my parents gave me that I value now as I look back upon it was a lot of freedom, a lot of personal freedom as a kid. I had a bicycle. All of northern Odessa was mine. I mean, it was my backyard. And I could get on that bike and I could go anywhere I wanted to go as long as I was back at the house by dinner time. That's all that mattered was, I had a watch and I had to make sure that I was back home for dinner. Dad would come home about 5:30 and we'd have dinner about 6. But my mom didn't know where I was. She didn't have a moment by moment accounting of what I was up to. And sometimes I was up to no good, but that's what kids do. They get out there and they push boundaries. But today, if you did that, if you said, your kid can run free and give him a bicycle and, he's 9 years old and he can go anywhere he wants to go, just as long as he gets time for dinner, you might well be brought up before authorities. And I say this because when I was in D.C. doing talk radio, we had a story that we covered. These families, they called themselves free-range parents, decided that they would let their, I think it's about a 7-year-old child, take a 5-year-old child several blocks away to a park and then walk back. Well, on the way back, they were intercepted by the police and detained. And child services was called. And, the parents, they knew where their kids were supposed to be at a certain time, but the kids didn't show up. They got worried. The police never thought to tell the parents that we have your children. And as I say, Child Services was involved in all of this. At the end of the day, they completely overreacted. This parent had made a decision that I think it's okay for my kids to walk a couple of blocks away to a park and then walk back without adult supervision. Thing I did when I was a kid every day of my life. They were found to be in violation of the rules. And police got involved and Child Services got called. Today, I raised a daughter and I was probably one of the worst. I kept, really close tabs on where she was and what she was doing every minute. I knew what she was up to. But that's called helicopter parenting, and perhaps it's not as positive an experience or the right way to raise a kid, because at the end of the day, what are they going to do when you're not around? How are they going to make decisions? I have a theory about raising kids that is sort of coming back into popularity again, which is I think you've got to let kids make mistakes. Now, we as parents, we don't like to do that. We don't like to see our kids make mistakes. We like to, jump right in and scoop them up and save them before they make a mistake. But you know what happens in a situation like that? In my opinion, the kid doesn't learn anything. The kid doesn't learn what it is to make a mistake. And so, later on in life, when they make a mistake and they're on their own, they won't know how to work their way through it because mom and dad always did that for me. I think, and so this is being called in some circles benign neglect parenting. Now, I don't know how you feel about it, but I actually think there's some real merit to this. This is from a story that I stumbled into from the Washington Times. Benign neglect is a parenting trend promoting independence in children. It contrasts with helicopter parenting and constant emotional engagement. Recent incidents highlight potential dangers, however, of neglectful parenting. See, it's not without danger, I suppose. A parenting trend with a troubling name has divided child care experts over whether it's better than it sounds. Benign neglect, also known as free-range parenting, offers an alternative to the helicopter approach of closely monitoring children using rigid structures and gentle approach of constantly engaging with children's feelings. It encourages parents to give the children space to be alone and to solve problems for themselves. A slew of parenting articles and social media influencers have promoted the idea since the COVID-19 pandemic emergency. There is growing evidence that the parenting norms are shifting away from intensive, highly structured approaches, said finally psychologist Vince Callahan. It represents a cultural correction rather than a completely new phenomenon. It's not a move toward true neglect, but a response to the increasingly common belief that good parenting requires intervention, says Dr. Aisha Mannering, a Dallas pediatrician. She praised the trend as the intentional non-interference of parents who choose not to fix minor problems for their children rather than caregivers ignoring dangerous situations. Now, but clearly, if your child is about to do something that puts them in danger and you have the opportunity to prevent it, you do that. We all understand that. But if you're there to scoop them up and to solve every little niggling problem that comes along, then I'm not sure that you're doing that child a great deal of justice in the way you're raising them. I think when I look back at the times that my dad said to me, well, you got yourself into it, figure your way out of it. You have to deal with this. And this happened, when I was younger. It also happened when I was a teenager and started to drive. One of my favorite stories is about my dad. I'm in high school. I have a again, it tells you how old I am. 1968 Chevrolet Impala that I drive back and forth to high school and to my part-time job after school. I had a part-time job all the time. That's something else that a lot of parents don't make their kids do. I was well served by the fact that my parents made me go out and get a job very early, and all the time. I may not have been the smartest guy, but I learned a work ethic, and I think that's valuable. So I'm driving this 68 Impala to work, and my friend Ray Beatty, he wasn't my friend that day. He's in front of me, and he's going real slow, and I think he's messing with me, and I'm in a hurry to get to work. So I just sort of, on a curved road, I just went around him and got a ticket for going 60 and a 30. That's a bad ticket. No matter how you live, that's a bad ticket, right? Yeah. So the guy said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm sorry. I thought my friend was messing with me because he was going real slow. I'm trying to get to my job. I'm a little late." He said, "Well, I'm afraid I can't ignore it. Here's the ticket, 60 and a 30. So I go to work. I come home that night. I sit down. I'm having dinner with my dad and my mom and my little sister. I said, "Dad, I got a problem." "What's the problem?" "I got a speeding ticket." He already told me, you get a speeding ticket and I'll ground you. But he didn't say that this time. He said, "Well, how much was it for?" I said, "Dad, it's a bad one. It's a bad one. 60 and a 30. He said, "Oh, well." I said, what should I do?" He said, "Well, you got the ticket. You're 16 years old. You got to go down there and deal with the judge and work it out." "But Dad, what if I don't have enough money to pay for the ticket? What am I going to do then?" He said, "Well, you'll just have to work it out with the judge. And by the way, how much money do you have in your pocket?" I said, "Dad, I've got $60. It's all I have." He said, "All right, well, if you're just going to have to go down there and talk to the judge and straighten it out on your own. You won't come with me." "No, I will not come with you. You got into it. You need to get out of it." How many parents would do that today? How many parents, their instinct would be, "I'm going to grab my kid by the hand. I'm going to go down. I'm going to try to negotiate with the judge, see if we can work this." I mean, that would be the typical thing today, right? Not me. At 16 years old, I went down and faced the judge, and I went before the judge, and, I was a pretty clean-cut kid back in a time when there were a lot of people with very long hair. So, I presented well before the judge, and I say, "Hey, Judge, look, I made a horrific mistake. Here's what happened, and I'm sorry for it, and it's my very first infraction, and if you can cut me some slack here, I really appreciate it. I promise you it will never happen again, but if you can cut me some slack this time, I greatly would appreciate it." Judge says, "Well, I'm going to have to give you a fine, and I charge you $58. I said, "Okay." So I went and gave 3 20s to the clerk, and the clerk gave me back 2 $1 bills. I had just enough to pay my fine. And it wasn't until years later that I found out my dad had called the judge and told the judge exactly how much money I had in my pocket. He said, "Judge, take it all. Leave him a couple dollars for gas." Now, my dad was hovering behind the scenes, but I didn't know it for 20 years. He made me go down there and face that problem and solve that problem. He didn't hold my hand. He didn't go down there and negotiate on my behalf with the judge. He basically made me go deal with it. Did I learn my lesson? You darn straight I did. Did I ever speed again? Well, yeah, probably, but not in a way that I got caught like that. I think this is a thing that we need to think about. If we solve every problem that befalls our children are not going to have the ability to resolve problems for themselves, to work well in a work environment with others, to learn how to, get through difficult situations. And I think that we need some of this benign neglect now and then with our children. Well, one way or the other, fascinating article. Again, we would never want a child to be neglected. We would never want a child to be put in a dangerous situation. But I'm wondering if this idea of intentional non-interference, and what some call benign neglect, is not perhaps the better way to go when raising our children. To not always be their solution and to not be hovering over them every moment that they're alive so that they cannot learn how to function on their own. Hey, I don't know. I think there's a lot of people of my generation who look back and say, I turned out okay. And I had a lot of freedom. And I was allowed to make mistakes. And I had to figure out how to solve them. And we turned out okay. Just something to think about. 20 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Active investigation underway after a body was found on Nashville International Airport property. Got that story for you and more coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, Ken Weaver's in the newsroom. I got a question for you, Keno.
Yes, sir.
Raising a child. We
Yes,
were just
sir.
talking about what it is to raise a child. I mean, first of all, do you have any thoughts about this whole idea of not being the helicopter parent, but being one that gives your kid a little room to run? It's hard as a parent to do that, isn't it?
It is, but it is necessary. I mean, it's
think
kind of
so,
like
too.
you. I was fortunate enough. My parents gave me total freedom. I mean, about the only thing I had to do was when it got dark, I had to check in, but then I could go back out. And they would tell me maybe in another hour or so. That I
Come
could
back
stay
home in
up.
about an hour, right? In about an hour.
Exactly. But you're so right, man. I did a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have, but boy, I learned some very important lessons because of that freedom.
Yeah. I just think that, that we if we try to step in and they call them helicopter parents or lawnmower parents, where you try to mow down any problems before they even arrive.
Right.
And then, my dad, was a tough guy. But as I look back on it, I wouldn't have been near as productive as an individual or accomplished as much in my career if it hadn't been for the work ethic and this sort of freedom that he gave me to go out there and to be an individual.
Right.
And to learn things on my own.
Well, and you learn how to deal with people.
Yeah.
You develop people skills, especially whenever somebody's trying to whip your butt, which that happened to me a lot.
Well, then,
I was able to talk my way out of it.
You're just a little irritating. Let's be honest about it.
But you'd be out there with your gang of friends, and then there's another gang of people, and things happen. It didn't happen all the time, but yes, I agree with you, man. You can't fix your kids' problem. You can't fix every problem. Sometimes they've got to be allowed to make mistakes, and it's scary.
Listen to this, though. You know how much it costs to raise a kid in today's world?
Too much.
Well, on average, I've got some numbers here. $303,000 from the infancy to age 18.
Yeah.
$303,000. Parents who started raising children in 2026 will spend $303,418 from birth to 18 years old. That's about $16,857 per year for 18 years.
Man.
Hawaii, the most expensive, $40,000 for the first 5 years. Alaska is $365,000. Maryland, where I lived for way too long, $326,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah. Massachusetts, that comes to Maryland, $36,419 annually to raise a kid. Wow.
I believe it.
I can understand why some kids are not, why some young people are not having kids these days. States with the lowest annual cost to raise a small child were
Oklahoma.
I don't see it in here, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's pretty reasonable. Mississippi, $17,000 annually. Alabama, $18,000 annually. South Dakota, $18,600 annually. Florida came in at $25,000. Texas was 45th at $21,000.
Wow, I figured Texas would have been higher. Well, no, actually, that makes sense.
Yep.
Because in a lot of these states, you take Oklahoma and Texas, a big thing of the cost and everything is fuel. And fortunately, in Texas and Oklahoma, gasoline is made right there.
Right.
So there's not as far, you don't have to ship it as far to the station. So it tends to be a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, and that probably helps a whole lot. I keep looking back when I was filling up that motorhome on the way down to the beach the other day, and it was like, $4 a gallon basically. I remember when I first started driving. I mean, I know I said he's an old geezer, he is, but I remember paying 28 cents a gallon in West Texas for a gallon of gas.
I remember in high school in the 80s, it might have been $1
Yeah,
a gallon.
$1.25,
Yeah,
something like
that. The most expensive.
Most of the time that I was in high school, it was about 75 cents a gallon. We thought that was outrageous. Look what you're doing to us. You're killing us.
Jackson's making fun of us for being old.
We are old, but when you've paid 18 cents a gallon for gas.
Oh, it was
and
lovely.
now you're paying $4 a gallon for gas. It just rankles you.
It does, man.
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately, I've got just a little bitty Elantra, I mean, it'll run on 11. I can get through the week on 11 gallons, which is costing close to $40 now to fill up. But I can get through the week on it.
Yep. Well,
At $3.98 right now. I think they're in Murfreesboro. It was $3.98 the other day when I filled up.
Wow. Well, on average in the state of Tennessee right now, what is it? I had it here. Well, the national average is $4.16 a gallon.
Yeah. We're not far behind.
We're knocking on the door of $4 a gallon. That's still a lot.
Yep.
But I think it'll be coming down soon. It's time now for the news with Ken Weaver at 4:30.
Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes, and an investigation's underway after a body was discovered on Nashville International Airport property this morning. Channel 4 spoke to some businesses nearby who said police asked about a certain individual.
Did they give you any indication as to why they were asking about this individual?
None at all. I didn't know if they were looking for him because he's missing or if he had done something. Nothing at all, just if I had seen this gentleman before.
Now, they do say there's a lot of homeless activity in that area. The airport's Department of Public Safety says that body was found this morning near Murfreesboro Road. Metropolitan Nashville Police assisting with the investigation. Officials say passengers and airport operations are not affected. In a surprise announcement today, First Lady Melania Trump pushed back on claims that she says are false about a connection between her and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, saying any claims linking her to Epstein must stop.
To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell.
She referred to what she called baseless lies, didn't expand upon that, but also said she calls on Congress to have women who are survivors, victims of Jeffrey Epstein, come forward and have an opportunity to testify. She said they should have a chance to tell their story in public. Operation Epic Fury, Israel-Lebanon talks expected to start next week in Washington at the State Department. Even though the Iranians claim the Strait of Hormuz has been reopened, maritime traffic is moving slowly. Not clear whether it will remain open for long. Gasoline prices in the U.S. have been soaring because of it. Right now in Middle Tennessee, according to Gas Buddy, it's $3.98 per gallon. That's up about 73 cents since last month. Also in Middle Tennessee, a field trip canceled after a Rutherford County school bus was involved in a crash in Murfreesboro this morning. Police say the bus collided with a pickup truck on Manchester Pike at Fieldstone Drive. No students or school staff were injured, but the pickup driver was hurt, hospitalized. Tennessee Highway Patrol working to determine what led to that crash. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, Capitol View, we've got a crash partially blocking the on-ramp 40 eastbound from Church Street. Watkins Park, a crash 40 westbound past Charlotte Avenue. Metro Center, this is an injury crash 65 northbound at Rosa Parks. Rivergate, still stop and go 65 northbound between Vietnam Veterans and Louisville Highway. 10-minute delay there for some road work. Back over by the airport, got a crash 40 westbound at Briley Parkway East. That'll be exit 215. Spring Hill, a crash 65 northbound past Saturn Parkway. White House got an accident on the right shoulder 65 northbound past Bethel Road. I'm Ken Weaver.
It is 37 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air all the way till 7 o'clock, filling in for Matt Murphy. He'll be back on Monday. I'll be here tomorrow as well. Okay? So we have an appointment, right, to catch up. Let's talk about some stuff happening in the swamp. I think this is pretty interesting stuff. It happened late this afternoon, just before the show came on the air. Melania Trump has come out with a statement with regard to Jeffrey Epstein and some of the reporting that has tried to connect her to Epstein. Here is what has been said, and there's a lot of questions about why now. Was there a story that was about to emerge? What was going on? What precipitated this particular action on behalf of the First Lady? I don't know. Don't have the answer for that, but here's what we know about her statement. I am not Epstein's victim, the First Lady remarked in a pre-written statement. First Lady Melania Trump delivered a brief statement Thursday afternoon at the White House, coming out swinging at those who have linked her to Jeffrey Epstein, calling them devoid of ethical standards. The remarks lasted roughly 3 minutes, did not include questions from the press. The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. White House official told Fox News ahead of the event the appearance would be a statement rather than a formal announcement. I don't know what the difference is. Trump clarified the history between herself, her husband, President Donald Trump, and Epstein during her remarks. I have never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time. Since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach, she said. First Lady called on Congress to act on Epstein's circle, saying each and every woman should have her moment to share testimony. Quote, I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony. Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public if she wishes, and then her testimony should be permanently entered into the Congressional record. That's what we know about Melania Trump's announcement today. And again, it seems, what's really strange about this is it just seemed to come out of nowhere, which generally, the way Washington works means somebody was working on a story, some story was about to drop, she wanted to take preemptive action to sort of negate the power of that story in advance, and she has, I think, quite effectively. I believe her. I do. Speaking of Epstein, this is a new development there. I know everybody wants to know about Epstein this and Epstein that. I don't know that we're ever going to get the answers. I will say that as many documents as have been released, if you haven't got the answers you want, you're probably not going to find them. And here's the thing. No matter how many documents get released, I have the feeling that nobody would ever believe they've gotten them all. Oh, well, how do we know we got them all? Well, you can't know. That's the thing. So I don't know that we'll ever satisfy everyone who has questions about Jeffrey Epstein and his relationships and his bad activity. But here's this. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, will appear before Congress on June 10th for a transcribed interview with regard to Jeffrey Epstein. While he never witnessed or participated in any of Epstein's illegal conduct, he is looking forward to answering all the committee's questions to support their important work, a spokesman said. Gates has been under heavy scrutiny for his relationship with the disgraced financier. Documents released in December depicted Gates with Epstein, and Gates had previously said he had several dinners with Epstein, though he added he was under the impression Epstein would use his wealthy connection to fundraise for global health causes. When that didn't happen, Gates told PBS NewsHour in 2021 he cut off the dinners and called the meetings a mistake. Gates's sit-down will round out a series of interviews before the committee Ted Waite, the founder of Gateway, who was romantically linked to Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell for years, will sit for a transcribed interview April 30th. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is said to appear before the committee on May 6th. This is interesting. Tova Noel, the prison guard who said she was the last to see Epstein alive, will be interviewed on May 18th. And Leslie Groff, Epstein's longtime assistant, will sit for an interview on June 9th. Spokesperson at Wyatt's Foundation did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Noel could not be immediately reached for comment. The transcribed interviews, while more informal than a deposition, will take place behind closed doors. They've already interviewed Attorney General Bill Barr and Labor Secretary Alex Acosta. Former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have also been questioned about their relationship with Epstein. I guess the question I have is, what would it take for you to feel like you got all of the information you possibly could want? And what is it do you think that's out there that has not yet come forward? I mean, I got to tell you, the whole Epstein mysteriously dying in jail thing, something pretty squirrely about that, there's no doubt. But I think we are in a position where we're getting a lot of information from all of the records. And remember, some of these records have been redacted, and that's the other thing. As long as some of these have to be redacted because they were grand jury testimony, I'm not sure people are ever going to be completely satisfied that they got all the answers. Anyway, there you go, the latest on Epstein. House Democrat leaders opened the door to the 25th Amendment after rank and file push for Trump's removal. Yep, here we go, House Democrats. Here we go, talking of invoking the 25th Amendment, re-emerging among House Democrats. After more than a year of dismissing speculation, they would seek to remove Trump from power for a third time. Rather than quash the discussion, House Democrat leadership appears to be encouraging at this point. On Wednesday, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries scheduled a Friday briefing on the 25th Amendment for his caucus to be hosted by Representative Jamie Raskin of Maryland and House Judiciary Committee Chairman Democrats. The announcement came after Donald Trump announced a 2-week ceasefire with Iran, with administration officials hailing the success of Operation Epic Fury. Jeffries torched Trump's threats issued earlier this week to wipe out Iran's civilization and to unleash hell on Tehran. Shockingly, says Jeffries, Donald Trump threatened to escalate his war of choice in a profane Easter Sunday rant and to eradicate an entire civilization. We will continue to unleash maximum pressure on Republicans to put patriotic duty over party loyalty and join Democrats in stopping the madness, said Jeffries, the minority leader of the House. Yep, I don't know. Look, this is what happens. This is what they do. I must say, it bothered me a little bit. In fairness, it really did bother me a little bit about the F-bomb tweet on Easter Sunday. I felt like, really? Read the room, dude. It's Easter Sunday. Is that what you need to be doing? I mean, I agree with what he's doing in Iran. I don't disagree with his policies very often. But I will have to say that left me with a sort of a bad taste in my mouth. And I think it didn't sit well with a lot of people, even those who support him. That doesn't mean that I don't believe in his philosophy and his policies, and I don't criticize him for the things that he has done policy-wise. I just wish sometimes that kind of stuff would perhaps not get out there. Perhaps you would then not have these moments where everybody says, we got to take him out. He's lost his mind. I don't think he's lost his mind. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. And certainly the Democrats are no better when it comes to dropping F-bombs these days. There's no doubt about that. Pox on both their house. But the Democrats, this is going nowhere. This is, as they say, sound and fury signifying nothing. They're not going to invoke the 25th Amendment on Trump. They're simply not going to do it. It's not going to happen. And so, why do we go through this? Because it makes the Democrats feel like they're doing something. They're getting killed so badly that they just feel like they have a lot more that they'd like to try to accomplish. Now, I've got a soundbite here that I want to play for you in a moment. Comes from Mark Penn, who was Clinton's pollster, but a pretty good guy. Although he's a Democrat, he's always been a guy who's driven by the data, not so much driven by politics or partisanship. When Mark Penn tells you something, then you can go to the bank on it. And one of the things that Mark Penn says is that he believes Trump can still have a positive impact on the midterm elections. This is the Democrat pollster who says that he believes Donald Trump can have a positive impact and we can still have a good positive outcome in these midterm elections where, quite frankly, we're not expected to do very well. If past is prologue, the midterm elections should not go well for Republicans because they're the party in power, and midterm elections generally are not something that the party in power does very well with. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. The history of the fact is midterm elections, when you're the party in power, and we're definitely the party in power, will not necessarily go well for the party in power at the time. But I'll tell you what Mark Penn has to say in just a moment. Right now, let's take a break at 50 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
For many of you, and I know because I talk to you, and I'm one of you, you do everything right. You feel like you're exercising enough. You feel like you're eating right, but you get to a certain age where you just can't get it off in certain areas. You just can't get it done. Allow the modern technology, the red light therapy that is Contours, to give you that boost, that assist. You do those things that you're doing in your daily life. Let Contours do their thing with their ultra slim body contouring, and together you're going to achieve that level of happiness, and that happiness, it cannot be replicated. Once you get to that body, that look that you're looking for, once you lose those inches that you wanted to lose, and your love handles, in your chest area, wherever it might be, I'm telling you, folks, look in the mirror and you'll love what you see when you get to Contours LLC. They also do facials that are revitalizing. The red light therapy will tighten your skin and restore your natural glow for both men and women. Red light therapy works, and I'm a testimony to it because I'm going through a session right now, just left earlier today, as a matter of fact. So for $99, you can get that Belly Buster special. Call today at Contours LLC, 615-236-9960, 615-236-9960, ContoursLLC.com. What do you have to lose but inches? We are hearing that mortgage rates have come down, and you've seen perhaps mortgage rates come down. I experienced it several months ago as we finalized our mortgage on our new property in Mount Pleasant, and I got a good rate through Accurate Mortgage. And let me tell you something, friends, if you're thinking about moving, you can get some acceptable rates. They've come down from their highs, and now is the time because we've hit a kind of a honey spot where housing prices have gone down. Interest rates are now sliding down as well, and so you get that honey hole and you can get a good deal. And obviously, you marry the mortgage, you date the interest rate anyway. Secondarily, if you're thinking about refinancing because you've got high interest credit card debt or higher interest debt, generally speaking, you can do that right now at Accurate Mortgage and get a great deal on that too. If you're thinking of building onto your home, a home construction loan is possible as well. Here's the wonderful thing. Accurate Mortgage, you're not just a number. They're never going to advise you to do anything that doesn't make sense for you financially. Listen, friends, when the time comes, and I hope it comes soon, it's time to call Accurate Mortgage. You begin that journey on their website, AccurateMTG.com, AccurateMTG.com. Accurate Mortgage, NMLS 129944, rates and terms subject to change, equal housing lender.
Active investigation on Nashville International Airport property after a body was found this morning. Got that and other top stories at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Weaver, what do you make of this Melania Trump statement today? That was, completely out of nowhere today.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Brother Brian. I think a lot of reporters are kind of wondering, too. I will say this. I have seen some images of the First Lady on social media, in the same image with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but I don't know if that is legitimate or if that was just AI generated. So
yeah, this is the thing. So much of what you see on social media these days is AI crap.
Yes. And I think maybe she's trying to get out ahead of something or, but then there's a question. I have a question. Well, why do you even need to say anything? Is there a need, to come out and respond to this?
When somebody is motivated to do something out of the blue in Washington, almost always the thought is, ooh, there must be a story about to break.
Right.
Because you know what happens when you're working on a story and you got it all put together and you need to get a reaction. You call them up and say, we are going to report blah, 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 blah. We'd like to get your comment on it.
Yes.
And so it's coming. And so, maybe somebody called and said, we got an Epstein story that we're going to report, and we're sure of our facts. And she's apparently decided to do a preemptive strike on him. That's the only thing I can figure out.
Right. Well, you spent a lot of time there, Brother Brian, and you're dead on. But from what I've seen from the ABC White House poll reporters, this came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And, she didn't take questions. She did say that she thinks Congress needs to allow survivors of this a chance to testify publicly before Congress. So I don't know. We'll see what comes from it. But yeah, this came out of left field.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we'll keep an eye on it, and maybe, as they say, in the passage of time, in the fullness of time, we'll get our answer.
Right. Who knows? Maybe like you said, somebody, tipped off the White House, the office of the First Lady, and said, we're going to run with this. Do you have a comment? And I guess maybe we could see something, like you said, in the very near future.
Well, we'll see. Listen, I appreciate your feedback on it. Mark Penn, pollster, Democrat, worked for Bill Clinton, but a pretty good guy when it comes to, to reading the tea leaves. And he'll just give it to you straight. Whatever the data show is what he will share with you. I find him to be a pretty straight shooting, straight thinking kind of guy. And he says Trump can win and can lead the Republicans to a victory in the midterm elections because he has a good record, and this is how he thinks Trump should align himself as we head into the midterms. Hang on, one more time. This is Mark Penn.
I think the whole question is, Americans have been pessimistic for such a long time, and here they see, wow, the plane is shot down. We actually can get somebody out. Wow, we actually can get people to the moon again. We actually can kind of capture those bad guys, right?
Yeah,
and
it's an American exceptionalism story, and it's ahead of the 250th.
Right. I think it comes back, and I think the notion that we also have advanced technology that we're the world leader in, if he gets some good economic news and he could marshal these 10 other positive events, then will people want to keep moving forward with him and his leadership? That's really his opportunity here. That's what he has to do to be successful.
We're going to cross our fingers and see how things go. There is a case to be made. The question is the American public ready to hear that case? It is now 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy. Time for the news with Ken Weaver.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, police investigating after a body was found on Nashville International Airport property this morning. Airport officials say the discovery happened just after 9 o'clock near Murfreesboro Road. Now, businesses in that area that Channel 4 talked to said that there is a pretty sizable homeless population that they see from time to time around there. The cause of death to this person currently unknown. Don't know the identity. Authorities say there's no threat to the public. It's not impacting airport operations. And a surprise announcement today in our nation's capital. First Lady Melania Trump pushed back on claims that she says are false about a connection between her and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, saying any claims linking her to Epstein must stop.
I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump.
ABC News White House correspondent Karen Travers with more.
She said she didn't have any knowledge of his victims. She wasn't involved in any of his crimes or situations and never visited the island. She referred to what she called baseless lies, didn't expand upon that, but also said she calls on Congress to have women who are survivors, victims of Jeffrey Epstein, come forward and have an opportunity to testify. She says they should have a chance to tell their stories in public.
Operation Epic Fury talks between Israel and Lebanon are expected to get underway next week in Washington. A source says the negotiation is going to take place at the State Department. Here in Middle Tennessee, one person hospitalized after a crash involving a Rutherford County school bus this morning. Police say the wreck happened on Manchester Pike at Fieldstone Drive. The bus carrying first graders from Buchanan Elementary to a field trip, but no students or staff were hurt. The field trip canceled and the pickup truck driver was taken to the hospital. Meanwhile, News Channel 5 says personnel files reveal new information about the bus driver involved in a deadly Clarksville school bus crash. The driver had no prior incidents and met all medical requirements to operate a school bus. Records do note periodic medical monitoring, though officials say all standards were met. The March 27th crash claimed the lives of 2 Kenwood Middle School students. The investigation continues. Here's the wake-up call for the crew of NASA's Artemis II as they were getting ready to come home, as they are getting ready to come home tomorrow. Lonesome Drifter by Charlie Crockett. The capsule expected to splash down in the Pacific Ocean near San Diego tomorrow afternoon. Retired NASA astronaut Susan Kilrain telling ABC News this crew will be coming in at a steeper rate than the crew from the first Artemis mission.
They are coming in steeper, which means they will actually experience higher temperatures. But the key is for a shorter period of time. And their analysis says that that is what's going to keep this heat shield safe and in one piece.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, we got a crash partially blocking the on-ramp to 40 eastbound from Church Street. Then Watkins Park, a crash. 40 westbound past Charlotte. Metro Center, injury wreck. 65 northbound at Rosa Parks. Rivergate, still stop-and-go traffic. 65 northbound between Vietnam Veterans and Louisville Highway for road work. Tusculum now got a crash. Old Hickory Boulevard just west of Nolensville Pike. And then in Lebanon, you got a crash 40 westbound right before South Hartman Drive. White House, a crash on the right shoulder, 65 northbound past Bethel Road. I'm Ken Weaver.
Past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, filling in for Matt Murphy. I'll be here today. I'll be here tomorrow. And Matt will return on Monday after taking a few days of well-deserved time off. We got a lot to ground to cover here this afternoon. We need to check in on the situation with Iran. Just to bring you up to the big picture, we have a ceasefire that I guess is technically still in place. There have been some questions about whether or not the Strait of Hormuz is truly open. Some ships have gotten through, and is the ceasefire holding? Yeah, I mean, there was a problem. As you might imagine, we decide we're going to establish a ceasefire, and then, at about within an hour, still within an hour of the time that the ceasefire was announced by the White House, the Iranians decide they're going to lob some more missiles at Israel. And the question is, well, why did that happen? Well, I mean, I think it's one of these things that happens in the fog of war. I think we've been just pounding the crap out of Iran, dropping bombs, destroying their communications, destroying their command and control, destroying their leadership, taking out missiles and military equipment all over the country. So it's not surprising that when a ceasefire is called, the communications are so wrecked that it might take a while for everybody in Iran to learn that we have a ceasefire in place. So, when the first little, rockets came in, I think most people said, well, this may be something we just have to absorb to get to the end of this whole mess, because I think they just didn't get the word in time. Maybe I'm wrong about that. The Iranians seem to think that they have cards to play here. I don't agree. I don't think they do. J.D. Vance thinks all the cards are in the hands of the current president of the United States.
This is one of the things that's going to be one of the main subjects of negotiation, is that we want Iran to not be able to make a nuclear weapon. We want the nuclear fuel, which is something the president has made very clear. And there's, again, the way to think about this is the United States has certain demands and certain things that we want. The Iranians have things they can get out of the negotiation. The more that they're willing to give us, I think the more they're going to get things out of this negotiation. The president's talked about sanctions relief. The president's talked about economic partnerships and things like that. That's not going to happen unless the Iranians make a firm commitment to stop anything close to the development of a nuclear weapon. And frankly, the president has all the cards here. We've got a lot of leverage. We've got a lot of things that we can do. But right now, I think that we're in a good spot.
It's interesting. J.D. Vance is being given the job here of negotiating. It's really interesting, the dynamic to watch within the Trump administration. Marco Rubio, clearly a rock star. He's the person in charge of national security. He's the person in charge of the State Department. The vice president taking on fraud, now taking on these negotiations that will take place in a day or so, and try to get to the bottom of this thing and bring it to a conclusion. That's all very much happening. And the other story that's developing out of this is that Trump is just absolutely put out with NATO. Our NATO allies, he's very angry at many of them who did not help out in our time of need. I mean, we have got NATO's countries back. If France has got a problem, we have a commitment to be there. If Spain has a problem, we have a commitment to be there. That's what NATO is. It's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And that treaty is that America will support European countries if they get into a bind. And it's supposed to be vice versa. But they weren't there. Trump is angry about it. He had a pretty full and frank discussion with the Secretary General of NATO, a guy by the name of Mark Rutte. And Rutte says, yeah, it was a pretty tough conversation. And, there's been talk that Trump would like to pull out of NATO. What did Rutte have to say? He sat down with Jake Tapper at CNN.
Well, let me be absolutely clear. He is clearly disappointed, with many NATO allies. And I can see his point. But at the same time, I was also able to point to the fact that the large majority of European nations has been helpful with basing, with logistics, with overflights, with making sure that they lived up to the commitments. And there is also widespread support for the fact that degrading the nuclear and the ballistic missile capacity from Iran was really crucial. And that only the US was able at this point to do that. I also pointed him to the positive, but clearly this was a very frank, a very open discussion, but also discussion between two good friends.
The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the president is weighing punishing some NATO allies for not being helpful to the U.S. and Israel during the war. Quote, the proposal would involve moving U.S. troops out of NATO member countries deemed unhelpful to the Iran war effort and station them in countries that were more supportive of the U.S. military campaign. Did the president talk about that at all today?
Again, it was a very frank, it was a very open discussion. He clearly...
I love that. And this is what diplomats do. It was a very full and frank discussion. In other words, the president gave him an earful.
Told me what he thought of what happened over the last couple of weeks.
Some countries specifically said, you can't use our bases, you can't even fly over our airspace. Spain, France...
Yeah, but listen, the large majority, including France, of European nations has been doing what they committed before they would do in a case like this.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not worried at all, 10 being terrified, where do you leave Washington thinking President Trump, your opinion of President Trump wanting to leave NATO? Are you 1, I'm not worried at all, 10, I'm really worried Trump is going to pull out of NATO?
Well, I'm not going to get into that answering that question.
I'm just trying to get an answer.
No, I understand that. But what I felt today, this was a meeting between friends. Because we like each other. I really admire his leadership. And he knows what he did in The Hague last year at the NATO summit has been crucial. And NATO allies are with him when it comes to the aims of taking out, as I said, degrading the nuclear and the ballistic missile capacity of the Iranians.
Yeah, but Europeans wanted to do it through diplomatic means.
Yeah, I know, but we run the risk that this would lead into the North Korea moment.
Listen to this. This is very interesting. Yeah, we have the possibility here of having Iran become the next North Korea. We diddled around too long and didn't take care of everything that needed to be taken care of in North Korea. And at the end of the day, they ended up having a nuclear weapon. We don't want that for Iran. It destabilizes the entire region and destabilizes the world. And he doesn't want that to happen the way it happened in North Korea.
Where you talk so long that at a certain moment, it's beyond the point where you can still get this done, because then they would get their hands on the nuclear capacity. Mm-hmm. And that is basically a big risk for Europe. It is existential for Israel. It is existential for the Middle East. So the whole world is safer by this president degrading those capabilities.
Well, I think that's true. And I think we are safer in this world with a degraded Iran. Iran, say what you will about North Korea, they are problematic, but Iran was problematic on a whole different level. They had said, without any doubt, we have a sworn policy to try to destroy Israel. That's our sworn mission in the world. They are putting out a bunch of proxy fighters that are terrorizing the entire Mideast. None of their regional partners in that part of the world, the UAEs, the Omans, the Bahrainis, all of those, they're not liking anything that's going on with Iran. They look at Iran as being a threat, and it is a threat. So, I get the fact that we don't want them to become the next North Korea. Can you imagine how, as bad as it is, and as upset as everyone is with, in some circles, with Donald Trump, starting a war with Iran, what would be worse than any of that? Iran having one nuclear weapon and lobbing it at Israel. Talk about the number of people who would die in a situation like that. And they've just told us, I don't know why they told us, but they did. They said, we've got enough nuclear material to make 11 bombs. So it was critical mass. It was important to do this. And yes, I know that there are a lot of people who have real concerns about the way this all happened. And I'm not sure that the Trump administration did the best job in explaining it to the American people and to the world as to why this needed to happen. But it needed to happen. These Iranians are not to be trusted. And, we've tried a bunch of different, we've tried the carrot and the stick approach. We've tried, trying to bring them into the world of a world of nations, and that hasn't worked. Nothing seems to work with these folks. They just have this singular idea that they are going to destroy Israel. Death to Israel, death to America. That's basically the Iranian foreign policy. So I'm sort of glad that Trump did this. I understand not everybody may be in agreement, but to me, it all comes down to this one thing. What would have happened if Iran truly did get a nuclear weapon with a 4,000 kilometer missile that they could put that on and could deliver it to the capitals of Europe, into India, and, someday they may get a rocket powerful enough that they could drop one on the United States, and then we got a problem. So I look at this and I say, I think he had to do it. And I think it's again, coming up in just a moment, what's going to happen on Capitol Hill? Because Democrats are talking about trying to invoke the War Powers Act and force his hand on this matter, force the president's hand on this matter. I'll get into that in just a few moments. And you'll hear from a Democrat who is absolutely standing with Donald Trump on this matter. It's all straight ahead on the Matt Murphy Show. Brian Wilson in for Matt. Let's call it 19 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock.
Matt Murphy for Grace Point Healthcare. Modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. Let's agree on this point. Long waiting for a visit to the doctor stinks. Long wait times when you get to the doctor, that stinks as well. You don't receive either of those things at Grace Point Healthcare. They don't believe in those types of things. Grace Point Healthcare believes in helping you right now, today or tomorrow. That's oftentimes what they're going to say when you call them and ask for an appointment at Grace Point, even for brand new patients. Grace Point Healthcare is located in Franklin, 599-6868, by the way, 599-6868. We call them modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way because it's a direct pay primary care physician's practice, meaning you pay Grace Point, and then you can file with your insurance company for reimbursement after the fact. Bottom line is this is the way that it should be because it keeps prices low at the point of payment. Plus, with the basic Smart Care plan, you pay $99 a month and you get unlimited office visits for the entire year. That's the way it ought to be. Grace Point Healthcare, modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. Go today in Franklin. Legendary coach Lou Holtz once said, before people spend money, they ask 3 questions. Can I trust you? Are you committed to excellence? And do you care about me? Friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I can say with Eurofix, those 3 answers are an emphatic yes, yes, and yes. Back in 1999, owner Aaron Stokes was by himself in a one-car garage in downtown Franklin. A few months later, he moved into a shop in a barn behind his house so he could stay close to his family while building his dream of offering the best European vehicle repair at below dealer pricing. Flash forward to today. The barn's gone, and sadly, I'm here to say that Aaron is gone too. But Eurofix is continuing that tradition that he laid out over the 26 years that he was a part of the Eurofix family and really the driving force behind it. thriving in 5 separate locations: Nashville, Franklin, Belmead, Murfreesboro, and Mount Juliet. 3-year, 36,000-mile nationwide warranty. Free, a rental car available at every appointment. Friends, it is time. If you want solid European auto repair, get to Eurofix. Go to myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com.
Active investigation on the Nashville International Airport grounds where a body was found earlier today. That story and more coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
A tease for you. I'm telling you, I want to know more about that story. How did that happen?
Yeah, apparently a couple of businesses there along Murfreesboro Pike where this is at say the area is frequented by homeless. And police actually took apparently questioned one of the business's managers about a person in particular who this fella describes as a large white male. But we don't know if that person was the person that they found deceased or what sort of relationship that might have to it. We don't know the name of the individual who was found dead or the circumstances surrounding it. But, yeah, active investigation. And you know, fortunately, it's not messing up any of the airport's day-to-day operations. But active investigation or Metro Police helping out airport police on this one, Brother Brian.
Yeah, I mean, how did things go at the airport during all the spring break activity? I think they went pretty well, didn't they?
Yeah, I saw no reports of any issue whatsoever at BNA.
Yeah,
seemed like it was the really large, like Atlanta, which is the world's busiest airport.
Yeah,
you know, and Houston.
You're gonna go through heaven or hell in the South. You got to go through Atlanta.
Yes,
say.
Sir, you do. And of course, one of the Houston airports, I can't remember which one it was, they were having some issues too.
I got some airport news. I got some other stuff here.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, as long as we're talking about that issue. United Airlines, and I think it's United and JetBlue and Delta and now Southwest have all raised their bag fees.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the one about Southwest. Southwest Airlines raising checked baggage fees by $10 less than a year after ending its bags fly free perk that long set it apart as a great place to fly. I love the fact that you could check up to 2 bags for no charge. And why they changed that, I don't know, but they did. Customers checking 1 bag will pay $45 starting today. Second bag, $55. I think I'd find a way not to pack a bag.
Yeah, it looks like Alaska is doing the same thing now.
Yeah. So it's all because of the fuel prices, they say.
Yeah.
There's all that. And then there's this other thing going on at the airports that apparently the Trump administration is looking at what we just went through with the TSA and wondering, well, why don't we privatize the TSA? I think that's a good idea. They don't have, honestly, we're talking about, people who have one job, which is basically to make sure that you check your documents before you enter the airport and that your bag gets gone through if you're going to put it on the plane inside the cockpit, that it gets gone through and that you get screened. I think we can do that with people who are not government employees.
And then whenever Congress is bickering, it doesn't affect people trying to get from A to B.
Well, exactly. It just wears me out. This happens every single time. But, we apparently were able, you got to give a lot of credit to the TSA employees here in BNA. They showed up.
Yep.
They worked through the whole thing. I'm not sure I'd be real happy if I was told I had to go into work for 30 days without any pay.
Sure.
I would not be happy about that.
No.
But they did. They did their job, and they showed up, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. I think we really do. But I like this idea of privatizing the TSA. You want to know the truth? People will scream when they hear me say this. I think we don't need the TSA at all.
I've entertained that thought as well.
Because here's the thing. When we had 9/11 and TSA was the thing that came after 9/11, we got to make sure that we are securing the cockpit of the aircraft, making sure that people from the passenger area can't get to that was their thing, and we're going to make sure that their bags are screened. You know how they solved the problem of 9/11? By hardening the cockpit door.
Yep.
That solved the problem.
Air marshals too.
Air marshals are a great idea, and I would rather put the money into air marshals than into the TSA. But think about it. I mean, if you get on a train, if you get on an Amtrak train, you don't get screened.
No.
There's no guarantee that you're going to get to your location.
Right.
We don't make that promise to people. You get on a bus, you don't get screened.
Nope.
So why is it that we have to screen everybody that gets on an aircraft? If the problem was that we don't want terrorists to get to the cockpit, we solved that problem with hard cockpit doors.
Yes, sir.
I know it makes everybody feel better, well, everybody got their baggage. I don't think it really makes that big a difference. We've never made a promise to the American people that they could get on a plane and they'd always be safe. But apparently we now have the TSA, and it's become a political pawn instead of what it should be, which is a very important, screening of passengers before they get on the plane. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all, but I don't know why it has to be a government employee. I'm not really sure. I'm willing to take the risk of, for an easier experience at the airport, I'll take that risk.
Yeah, especially in times of congressional bickering. Having to get to the airport 5 and 6 hours ahead of time.
That was nuts. Yeah.
You might as well, in a lot of cases, you might as well drive.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're driving an electric truck. And it'll take you an extra hour and a half. All right, 5:30, time for the news with Ken Weaver.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, authorities say a body found on Nashville International Airport property, raising a lot of questions today. It is not hampering any operations of the airport, but this is an active investigation. The airport's Department of Public Safety says the body discovered around 9:15 this morning near Murfreesboro Road. This disc golf store manager telling Channel 4 the area is frequented by homeless people and was asked by police about one person in particular.
It was, a large white male, disheveled, but I'd never seen him in the parking lot or anything before. I didn't know what was going on. Hadn't heard much before they asked. I knew the police weren't trying to buy a disc, so I knew something had to be up.
So Metro Police helping airport police with the investigation. And again, it is not impacting airport operations. They're continuing as normal. A surprise announcement at the White House from First Lady Melania Trump, where she pushed back on rumors about her and the late Jeffrey Epstein and his convicted co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Be cautious about what you believe. These images and stories are completely false.
Talking about images and stories on social media, the First Lady didn't take questions, but she says she never had a relationship with Epstein or Maxwell, didn't know about any of Epstein's and Maxwell's crimes. She also called on Congress to let survivors tell their stories publicly. Operation Epic Fury Israel-Lebanon talks expected to begin next week in Washington at the State Department. Meanwhile, ABC News contributor and former State Department official, retired Colonel Steve Ganyard, says the idea that President Trump has suggested about charging a toll for ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz won't have much support.
There's nobody in the world that's going to support their position that they will be allowed to toll the Strait of Hormuz. So everybody from their Chinese friends, the Pakistanis on down, are going to say, nope, that's got to change. So that will be one of the key sticking points, because Iran is looking for ways that they're going to develop revenue sources that will rebuild their economy and rebuild their country.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Stop and go brake tapping if you're northbound 65 up to the South Loop, eastbound 440 over 224, and then eastbound 40 to go northbound on 65 there on the West Loop. Rivergate still stop and go, 65 northbound between Vietnam veterans and Louisville for some road work. And then in Hermitage, you've got a crash now. Off-ramp partially blocked. This is going to be the I-40 westbound off-ramp to Stewart's Ferry Pike. And in White House, a crash on the right shoulder, 65 northbound past Bethel Road. I'm Ken Weaver.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for USS. That's United Structural Systems. USS is not just another repair company. They're your local foundation and waterproofing experts. They live here, they work here, they understand exactly how Tennessee soil acts, how the weather responds, how homes behave in those weather conditions. They've been serving homeowners in Middle Tennessee and beyond since 1994. That's a long time doing what they do. More than 30,000 satisfied customers. 30,000 customers have been proven right time and again by going to USS. That experience means that they've seen just about every type of problem that you can imagine. At USS, they want to give you a free home inspection. Go to USSTN.com to find out more about that. They did this for my home. They came to my house. They inspected it. They gave me the thumbs up, and it gave me peace of mind knowing that I'd made a good choice in the purchase of my home and that I was safe and free of fear in terms of foundation issues or waterproofing issues in the near future or the long term. They're problem solvers, they're experienced, they're local. They're USS. Go to USSTN.com.
It is 37 minutes past the hour. That's cheerful music. I like that. It's got a little bounce to it. Happy. Like, you think of a little animal doing a dance to that music.
Maybe a couple little French bulldogs.
Yeah, they put on a show, I'll tell you for sure. I want to go back to Iran for a moment and talk about what's happening in Washington with regard to Iran. The Democrats, I don't understand how you can hold this position. If you're Donald Trump, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you allow Iran to develop a nuclear weapon, then you have failed from a foreign policy standpoint. If you go in and you prohibit them from making a nuclear weapon, somehow you're a warmonger. And so the Democrats, every chance they get, are now going to try to stop what Trump is doing by having a debate over the Presidential War Powers Act. This happened today. House GOP on Thursday blocked a Democrat effort to end U.S. attacks on Iran as President Donald Trump's party continued to prevent efforts to rein in the president's war powers. Representative Chris Smith, Republican New Jersey, presided over an abbreviated pro forma House session, ending it before a group of Democrats could seek to pass the resolutions via unanimous consent. They, Mr. Speaker, and I'm sorry, I can't hear a thing. Didn't hear it. Bam, we're out. That's the way that goes. This all comes during a ceasefire. Why not give the president a little running room? Well, the Democrats, just because it's Donald Trump and they don't like anything. He could go out there and solve all the problems in the world, and everybody would look at him and they'd say, well, he's a bad guy, bad, orange man bad, and we need to go after him. They just can't help themselves. Whatever he does, they're going to be against it, even if it prevents people from dying. House GOP stops Dem attempt to hamstring Trump on Iran. This is from Axios. House Republicans thwarted an attempt by Democrats to pass a war powers resolution on Thursday that would block the president unilaterally restarting hostilities with Iran. The vote would have been largely symbolic. The measure faces an uphill battle in the Senate and could be vetoed by Trump. It would be vetoed by Trump, of course. Democrats are desperate to show voters they are using every tool in their disposal to end the war. It's not going anywhere. It's never going to happen. There's a very, very, very solid legal argument to be made that the War Powers Act is not even constitutional. I have long believed that it is not constitutional, but it's never been tried before the Supreme Court. It needs to be tried. Here's one thing I do know. If it comes up in the Senate, they're not going to have the support of John Fetterman. The Democrats won't. He is going to stand with President Donald Trump. Well, we may lose Susan Collins. We may lose, the senator from Alaska, Murkowski, but we'll have Fetterman on the Democrat side of the equation.
What our military's accomplished is profound and significant and important. I mean, it has effectively destroyed its capabilities and destroyed its Navy. And they really haven't been able to really put a glove on us through this entire Epic Fury campaign. And furthermore, I would like to remind people too, every single Democrat running for president and every single Democrat in the Senate said we can never allow them to acquire a nuclear weapon. And now if you want to talk about a war crime, Iran is a 47-year-old war crime, what they continue to behave. So, I, as a Democrat, I supported what President Trump did, to actually call Iran accountable. And I think it's been successful. As you've discussed, and I agree, it's not finished yet, but now where we are now, we are 38 days into it. I mean, the Ukrainian war is in over 4 years. All these other kinds of conflicts are years. we're not even for 40 days yet. So where are we at right now? Yes, it's like if you make these kinds of let's go for the 25th Amendment, and then then we have a ceasefire. Then it's like taco. I mean, like you can't have it both ways. I mean, so where we are, it's like strange to be gleeful that that we still have to accomplish some things and make these kinds of statements. Now I'm reading that they now have to force another, war powers vote, and I will vote against that now because we have to stand our military to allow them to accomplish, the goals of epic fury.
I am really impressed with Fetterman. Fetterman learned the lesson that is to be learned, that the real power is in the middle. He's in the middle. Sometimes he's with the Democrats, sometimes he's with Republicans. If they want his vote, they got to come to him and they got to work something out. And it puts you in a very powerful position. And he's learned that part of Washington pretty well. Anyway, President Donald Trump told NBC News on Thursday he was very optimistic a peace deal with Iran was within reach as a diplomatic delegation led by the vice president prepared to head to Pakistan for high-stakes talks aimed at ending the nearly 6-week conflict. Iran's leaders talk much differently when you're meeting than they do with the press. I believe that is true. You don't pay attention to what they say publicly. You look at what they do. Because they have to say certain things for public consumption back home because they have to save face. They've gotten their butts kicked. It's been humiliating, and they have to do everything they can to save face before the Iranian people. But at the end of the day, when they're talking privately, they say very different things. Oh, they sound tough when they're talking in public. And when they're in private, apparently they're a lot more humbled by the situation. They're agreeing to all the things that they have to agree to. Remember, they've been conquered. They have no military. If they don't make a deal, it's going to be very painful. We have taught them, the one thing that they have learned is that we can fly over your country with impunity. We have not only air superiority, we have air supremacy. We can go in with helicopters. We can go in with very slow-moving A-10 Warthogs. We can even land in the middle of Iran to try to rescue pilots, and you can't do a darn thing about it. So they have to know that we have control of the situation. What baffles me is why they keep asking for certain things, as if they have any right to expect that we're going to grant them. You got to open up the strait. You got to stop making nuclear weapons. You got to let us remove that nuclear material. It's that simple. Those 3 things happen, and anything else is gravy. Okay? But I'm telling you, it's really amazing to sit and watch all of the criticism of this president. And I just keep coming back to the one point that, okay, so what if we had not done this? And what if Iran was able to make a nuclear weapon? Apparently they had the material for 11 of them. What would happen if they lobbed one at somebody? How many people would die then? What would the reaction be then? They would criticize Trump. It happened on his watch. Well, he's doing something to make sure it doesn't happen on his watch, and he still gets blasted. It's ridiculous. If you have a different opinion about this war, okay, I get it. But at the end of the day, what opinion would you have if Iran lobbed a nuclear weapon? And believe me, if they could build one, they would lob it. They've been very clear about that. They want to destroy Israel. They want to be the regional power in that part of the world. And they would not hesitate to launch a missile with a nuclear weapon on it if they had one. So we don't want them to become like North Korea. We don't need them to be a nuclear power. And, as much as screaming and hollering and wailing and gnashing of teeth as I hear from the Democrats, Donald Trump has got us into a war and he's losing the war. He's not losing this war. If you could ever pull an Iranian general aside and get an honest conversation out of them, you'd find out they don't think that they're winning this war. We've got to stand behind the president at this crucial moment. And the fact of the matter is that Democrats are incapable of looking at anything that Donald Trump does and finding any merit in it whatsoever. I remember past conflicts where, Democrat presidents have gone. I remember, a lot of the actions in Kosovo during the Clinton years, and I remember, the two Persian Gulf Wars. And you know what? I don't remember a great deal of criticism of the president for taking these actions at the time. Oh, there was some, don't get me wrong, but not to the level we're hearing it now. They don't like what's happening here, not because they disagree with the policy, but because they dislike the president. That's all it is. The president thinks that he can have a good outcome here. And one way or the other, is it a little uncertain how things are going to unfold? Yes. But do we have the upper hand in the situation? We absolutely have the upper hand in the situation. And Congress, I just wish the Democrats could just give the president the benefit of a doubt, which they just can't do. How many times have we said Trump's going to do this and Trump's going to do that and he's going to mess this up and he's going to mess that up? And at the end of the day, we find out, he didn't really mess that up. What was the other day? Everybody said, we're going to have a horrible jobs report. Turned out to be a pretty good jobs report. He's going to kill the economy. No, the economy's doing okay, even under the circumstances of $4 a gallon gas, which won't last long. Look, we got to look beyond the $4 gas. Yeah, I know it's irritating. I didn't like, costing $80 to fill up my motorhome the other day. I didn't like it at all. But that's the price one has to pay in this particular situation. I don't think it'll be that way long. I think it'll be resolved within a few weeks. And I think the gas prices will rapidly come down. And I don't think we may not have as good an inflation report as we would have otherwise had because of high gas prices, but we'll get there. And at the end of the day, we're going to be in a much better place with a weakened Iran than if we did nothing. Let's call it 50 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on the Matt Murphy Show. Brian Wilson filling in, and time for a commercial break.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for U.S. Pest. Folks, when you travel through the city, sometimes you'll see these big billboards. They say U.S. Pest on them. Those are J.K. and Erica's billboards. You notice that you'll always see an American flag flying on one of those billboards. And we always mention how much they love these United States of America because America helped J.K. and Erica build U.S. Pest from what it was over the years to what it is now. It is the finest pest control company in Middle Tennessee, bar none. They're going to handle the issues that you have in your home, whether they're termites or just general bugs. Maybe you got roaches. Maybe you got spiders. Maybe you need crawl space relief. All of this is with a 100% money-back guarantee. But when you see those American flags flying or you hear me mention their love of this to the United States, know this. One thing you need to know about them, they love the United States of America. And the second thing you need to know about them is they hate bugs, and they will destroy them and where they live and where they breed and where they breathe in and around your property. All you got to do is call them. USPest.com. That's USPest.com or 590-1260. 590-1260. Give them a call and tell them that I sent you to the one and only U.S. Pest.
Active investigation on Nashville International Airport property after a body was found there this morning. And First Lady Melania Trump makes a surprise announcement today. We'll tell you about that and more coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Surprise. I got to tell you, I didn't see that one coming. Apparently nobody else did either.
Yeah, I'm very curious about this. Very curious about this.
You know, I think she's, no nonsense. By the way, have you seen the documentary Melania?
No, I have not.
I actually watched it the other day. I stumbled across it. I said, no, I haven't seen that yet, and I would like to see it, and I don't know why I haven't seen it before now. Sat down and watched it. It was very interesting, and she's a very interesting individual. But yeah, I have a feeling she's pretty no nonsense. I think
that's how she strikes me.
Yeah.
That's how she strikes me. And I was watching some of her body language, during while she was reading the announcement, and it looked to me like there was a little bit of emotion, but a little bit of shaking, but angry shaking.
I think she's mad.
I think she is too.
Something set her off today, and I mean, it came out of nowhere. Generally, when things happen in Washington, they're going to happen. They're on the day book, it'll be at 10 o'clock, the president's going to do this, and then Congress is going to do that, and then there's going to be a hearing over here, and then a press conference over, everything that's going to happen in Washington in advance generally. And when something like that pops up out of nowhere, you got to wonder, what happened behind the scenes that precipitated that?
Exactly.
And I think somebody was about to write a story, and she decided, I'm going to control this narrative, and I'm going to get out there and say what I need to say. And I believe her. I believe what she has said is true. Nobody has ever indicated anything otherwise.
Right.
And everybody said, well, I see these pictures on social media. I'm telling you right now, I'm about to give up on social media. About 85% of the stuff that I see on social media is AI crap.
You cannot trust it, man.
It is getting so hard to know what's reliable and what's not.
Yes.
And even if, this thing that happens now where they say, Grok, is this true? That's not necessarily good either.
No,
because
it's
you're
not.
asking a computer system to make a human judgment about something that is true or not.
Right.
And I just have seen enough stuff out there that I keep going, if it looks incredible, I think right now you have to say, well, that's AI. That's not real.
Man, Brian, but there are so many people who don't do that. Millions of people who just see it and they just believe it.
Yep, I know. And I would say to my friends out there, anything you see on Facebook, anything you see on X, you have to take with a grain of salt right now. And I don't know how we get this resolved where we can once again trust the information that we find online.
Right.
But we can't right now.
No, sir.
You really can't. And I think that I think in the fullness of time, we're going to hear more about what caused Melania to come out and say this, what was going on behind the scenes. That information will make its way into the public reporting, and it'll be more clear, but it certainly was interesting today.
Yes,
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue.
Nobody saw it coming. All of a sudden, this First Lady has a statement. And that was, it wasn't as if they called the press office and said, would it be okay if we gave this?
Right.
It was, we're going to do this. So get ready.
Yep.
So there's more to this story than we have heard thus far. And on that point, time for the news at 6 o'clock. One more hour of the Matt Murphy Show straight ahead. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. And right now in Middle Tennessee, authorities investigating after a body was found this morning on Nashville International Airport property. Airport officials say it was around 9:15 near Murfreesboro Road. Channel 4's Sarah Allen went out there. She's reporting.
I spoke with the disc golf store manager next to this lot, and he tells me that they do see homeless people around here often. And police came in earlier to ask him about a particular individual they were looking for.
It was, a large white male, disheveled, but I'd never seen him in the parking lot or anything before. I didn't know what was going on. Hadn't heard much before they asked. I knew the police weren't trying to buy a disc, so I knew something had to be up.
Now, another business I spoke with off camera tells me that they were very familiar with the man the police were asking about and saw him in the area just a few days ago. They told me that they believe he is homeless and previously have kicked him out and is known to cause issues around some of the businesses.
Cause of death or identity has not been released. Officials say there's no impact to flights or airport operations. And in that announcement today from the White House, First Lady Melania Trump pushing back on claims that she says are false about a connection between her and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, saying any claims linking her to Epstein must stop.
To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell.
She called on Congress to have women who are survivors of Jeffrey Epstein come forward and have an opportunity to testify. She said they should have a chance to tell their story in public. Operation Epic Fury. Iran says it has reopened the Strait of Hormuz, but it appears only a few tankers have transited the waterway. At the same time, Iran says a major part of the ceasefire deal struck with the U.S. isn't being met. That being the massive airstrikes that Israel carried out on Lebanon, marking the deadliest day there since early March. Here's ABC's Ian Pannell. He's in Tel Aviv.
Iran calling Israel's attacks on Lebanon a violation of the ceasefire deal. A source telling ABC News President Trump told Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to scale back the strikes and open direct talks with Lebanon. Netanyahu agreeing to hold talks in the coming days. Israel saying Hezbollah fired more than 50 rockets into northern Israel. This following Israel's massive wave of attacks in Lebanon over the past 24 hours that left 300 people dead.
Right now in Kentucky, a dignified transfer held at Samuels Field Airport in Bardstown for Tech Sergeant Ashley Pruitt. She was one of 6 airmen killed when a refueling aircraft crashed over western Iraq. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Rivergate, you've got stop-and-go traffic. 65 northbound between Vietnam Veterans Boulevard and Louisville Highway due to the road work. Then in Hermitage, got an injury crash. Central Pike, right there at Old Hickory Boulevard. Accident at Bell Road, west of Blue Hole Road. Then in Antioch, injury crash 24 westbound before Hickory Hollow Parkway. Donaldson, a crash, Broadley Parkway southbound at Elm Hill Pike. And then back by the airport, Donaldson Pike at Murfreesboro Pike. Metro Police reporting a crash there. Glencliff, a crash, 40 westbound before Spence Lane. I'm Ken Weaver.
It is 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, filling in for Matt Murphy, who will be back here on Monday. I'll be in here tomorrow as well. Broadcasting from my home studio in Bucolic, Watertown, Tennessee, where on Saturday we have our spring mile-long yard sale. I mean, have you ever been? It's like a gigantic garage sale. And people come from all over. They do it in the spring. They do it in the fall. And I'll be hanging out down by the square, on Saturday. If you want to come by the flower shop, I'll be near the flower shop. Come by and say hello, shake my hand. Love to say hello. So that's going to happen on Saturday in Bucolic, Watertown. You don't want to miss it. It's the social event of the spring, really. AI. We were just talking with Ken Weaver about AI and how you can't trust anything that you read these days on social media because the pictures are made up and the facts are made up, and anything that somebody out there who wants to stir the pot can think of, you can go to Grok or you can go to Chat GPT, and you can ask it to draw you a picture or generate an image, and I'm telling you, it's hard to tell whether it's real or it's not. Video, not a problem. Music, not a problem. Echo somebody's voices, not a problem. AI is amazing, and it's scary. Let me give you an example of the good part of it. So Cabana Wife's starting a small business, and she wants to build a website. I have built websites in the past, so I thought, well, I'll give her a hand. So I just go to one of these companies that that hosts websites for people. I mean, there's Daddy, what is it, Big Daddy or whatever it is, something or other. And then there's Wix, and there's about 5 or 6 other different ones. And I thought, GoDaddy, that's what it is. Big Daddy. And so, I go to one of these and I say, I want to do a website. And I told it what I wanted to do the website about. And the darn thing just did it. Within about 2 minutes, I had a website. It was amazing. Now, I needed to make some adjustments to it, but the basic website was there in about 2.5 minutes. It's astonishing. That used to be somebody's job, and now you don't need somebody to get you a website up and running because AI can do it for you. Now, I think AI has a lot of potential, and there's a lot of interesting stuff about AI. I'm also troubled by the negative side of AI, is that you don't know what's real and you don't know what's fake. It's hard to figure it out, and that worries me. Here's this. AI has replaced work for 20% of full-time employees in the United States, a survey says. Poll from the Epoch AI and Ipsos found that AI replaced existing tasks for 20% of full-time workers, but created new tasks for 15%. In a new survey released Thursday, a nonprofit AI research center found that half of adult Americans used AI in the past week. Are you using AI? Half of Americans are using it at least once a week. It's amazing. I mean, it truly is what it can do. Either for personal or for work with 20% of full-time workers saying AI has taken over a part of their job. The poll conducted by Ipsos in partnership with Epici AI, a leading nonprofit focused on data-driven research about artificial intelligence's development and impact, surveyed 2,000 American adults about how and when they used AI. While the survey found that AI replaced some tasks at work, 15% of full-time workers said they had started doing new tasks at work that they wouldn't have done without AI services, with a plus or minus of 2.5% margin of error. It's not flawless. You can still make mistakes with AI. But I think AI is pretty good at finding mistakes. The latest survey conducted from March 3rd through the 5th, among adults who used AI in the past week, the research found that almost 50% used AI between 2 and 5 days a week. Wow. The survey also showed that most people only performed 1 to 2 quick tasks using AI on their most intense day of AI usage, in contrast to roughly 6% of respondents who said they use it heavily. Only 6%. The fact that replacement seems to be outpacing augmentation should draw our attention. The policy window to shape how AI transform work is probably closing faster than most governments realize. You know, I think the thing that I would be thinking about right now, if I were the parent of a child that's in school, I would be having the conversation with my kid about what they want to get out of their education post-high school. I mean, I first, for one, do not believe that everyone needs to go to college. There are going to be a lot of jobs out there that AI can never do because it requires physical labor. You know, it requires talent and skill of using your hands and tools and having knowledge that comes from years and years of experience. Some things AI will never be able to replicate. And the things that it can replicate should free a few of us. But I mean, how would you feel right now if you had gone to school to study how to do websites and all of a sudden you found out nobody does that anymore? It's all AI generated. What if you went to school to learn how to do this, that, or the other, only to find out that when you got to the time to get your first job, AI was doing that instead of, the degree is worthless. I think you got to have a conversation with your kids and say, look, let's make sure that if you're going to college, that we're going to come out with a degree that will actually get you a job and that you won't be replaced by AI. And I think the way you do that is I think you learn to get very good with AI. And I will admit I'm not that good with it yet. But I'm fascinated by it. I'm of two minds. I am enamored with what it could be and terrified of what it might be. So, AI, that's the thing we got to watch. Here's another story that I think people need to know about. When I was in high school, way back in the dark ages, I remember turning 18 years old and being in class where I was, talk about something they don't teach anymore, typing. I was in typing class. And the vice principal of the school arrived at the door, knocked on the door, and called for me to come out. I thought, well, what have I done now? This is the guy that, if you were in trouble, Cactus Jack Crawley was the guy who came looking for you. And he was looking for me. Takes me to his office. And I had no idea what this was about. I was racking my brains. What did I do? Who tattled on me? What did I get into that I couldn't come up with anything? And he tells me when I get there, he says, Brian, you haven't registered for selective service and today's your 18th birthday. I said, yeah, I know I need to do that. But as it turns out, I found out I had 10 days. You have 10 grace days to do it. At least that's what I remember. But he wasn't going to have anything. He made me sit down right then and there in his office and sign up for selective service. Now, at the time when I was in high school, there was still a draft on for the Vietnam War. But by the time I got out of high school, the draft had become an all-volunteer army or all-volunteer military. But here's what you need to know now. You still have to register, but the government's going to do it for you automatically in many cases. This is new from the New York Post. Eligible young men will automatically be registered for U.S. military draft later this year. The federal government plans to automatically register eligible men for the military draft beginning in December, according to a proposed rule published last week. The Selective Service System, the government agency that maintains the database of draft-eligible Americans, submitted the automatic registration rule change to the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs on March 30th. Congress approved automatic registration for the draft last December as part of the National Defense Authorization Act, must pass legislation that authorizes funding for military personnel and operations. And the statutory change transfers responsibility for registration from individual men to the SSS through integration with federal data sources. In other words, they'll look at the data banks and they will automatically enroll you in selective service so that you don't have to worry about it. And I guess they'll probably send you a postcard in the mail. Under federal law, most males between 18 and 25 years old are already required to register with the Selective Service System. In case a military draft was authorized, which it has not been, men are expected to self-register within 30 days of their 18th birthday, but the agency accepts late registrations until age of 26. I didn't know that. Failing to register is a felony. Non-registrants face a fine of up to $250 or 5 years imprisonment. But now, don't worry, they will register you automatically. In 2024, the Selective Service System reported to Congress that registration rates declined in recent years, dropping from 84% of eligible men in 2023 to 81%. So, I mean, there's still pretty high registration rates. The Democrat who sponsored automatic draft registration language in the 2026 defense policy argued it would save taxpayers money. All right, so if you have a son of that age, remember they have to register, but apparently they're going to do it for you now. And again, this is not anything to do with Iran. This is something that's been in the works for some time, and no indication that they're going to reinstate the draft. Thank goodness. I'll never forget how happy I was when I found out that they were not doing the draft anymore. In retrospect, I wish I had served in the military. I had many friends who went. I had friends who did not come back. But I feel like that would have been something that probably would have helped me from a discipline standpoint to be a little more focused when I was a young man, because I wasn't very focused. Most men between the ages of 18 and 25 already required to register, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there we go. Another story. Here's one for you, something to think about. How would you like to wake up and read an article that says that you are dead? So what happened to the actor Michael J. Fox? Actor and advocate Michael J. Fox applauded as he accepts the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That was some time back. That's a picture. Michael J. Fox is alive and well despite rumors of his death circulating online. One day after CNN ignited a death scare by releasing a video package titled Remembering the Life of Actor Michael J. Fox on Wednesday, the legendary actor, who has been living with Parkinson's disease since '91, reassured fans that he's doing just fine. He is not dead. How do you react when you turn on the TV and CNN is reporting you're dead? Said Fox, age 64. Do you switch to MSNBC or whatever else they're calling themselves these days? Pour scalding hot water on your lap rather. If it hurts you're fine. Call your wife. Hopefully she's concerned but reassuring. Relax. We do this once a year. Or just ask yourself, WTF? Michael J. Fox is alive and well, ladies and gentlemen, despite what you may have read or heard on the cable news network. 20 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy, and I want to talk to you for a moment about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Good Dr. Mitch, Dr. Ashley, and the rest of the team at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. They're great people. I mean, not only are they fun folks, and they sponsor things like Nincompoops in the News, but they're also really, really good at what they do. And if you're in pain, you need Dr. Mitchell on your team. You need him as your provider for chiropractic care. They do so much over at the Wellness Institute. If you hurt anywhere, back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain, wherever it hurts, they can alleviate that pain. You can stop taking the pills. You don't have to consider the surgery. You don't have to take spinal block. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that take blockers that block the pain. This is simply covering up the issue. Let's get to the root cause of the problem through non-surgical spinal decompression, through decompression, generally speaking, through the brand new HydroWave technology. It's all available at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Call them today at 615-246-5009, 246-5009, or online at painisbad.com. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the Wellness Institute of Nashville, painisbad.com.
That's Ken Weaver in the newsroom. He's getting it done on this Thursday afternoon. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy. Matt will be back on Monday. He'll be gone tomorrow. I'll be filling in tomorrow as well, and we'll have a good time tomorrow. We'll catch up on a bunch of stuff. Are you ready for your driverless car? Now this is happening. I have a, as I mentioned earlier in the program, I have a truck that will drive itself to a certain degree. I mean, you're going down the highway, you put it in in highway mode. You have to be going to, it only works on interstate highways. Mine does. Hit the button. It'll drive you. It'll get you there. Now, if you want to change lanes, you just turn on your blinker and it looks to see if there's anybody there and changes lanes. It's pretty, it'll go for miles and miles and miles. You don't even have to have your hands on the wheel. But I don't know about the idea of getting into a driverless car, climbing into the back seat of a car that has no driver. Would you do it? Well, it's happening in Nashville now. Waymo has begun inviting riders now to use its driverless vehicles in Nashville. Access rolling out gradually through the Waymo app. Somebody said the phased approach is designed to ensure a smooth and consistent user experience as demand for the service in the area grows. The initial service spans roughly 60 square miles, covering some of Nashville's busiest and most recognizable neighborhoods, including downtown, Midtown, East Nashville, and Music Row. The company also said it is actively testing service at Nashville International Airport, with plans to include airport rides in the very near future. Well, we don't have a tunnel, though, before long. The launch builds on last year's announcement of a partnership with Lyft, which rides are currently booked through Waymo's own app. Governor Bill Lee supported the rollout, saying autonomous vehicle technology represents an important opportunity to expand mobility and support economic growth across Tennessee. This according to the Tennessee Star. I don't know. I just don't know if I can let go of being the control freak that I am. I'm not sure. Ken Weaver, are you there still? Could you do this? I think Ken may be gone. He's already checked out. All right. Trump administration kills the most annoying car feature that was forced on drivers by the Obama administration. What is it? You know how when you rent a car nowadays, and you maybe you fly to another city, you rent a car, and you come to a stop sign, and all of a sudden you notice the engine turns off. You come to a stop sign or a stoplight, and the engine just turns off. And then when you let your foot off the brake, the engine starts again and takes off. I hate that. And I think it apparently is one of the things that most drivers consider to be annoying. And this was put on us by the Obama administration. They said it was it's called the Obama-era off-cycle credits, which incentivized automakers to install automatic start-stop technology in vehicles, effectively killing what many drivers consider one of the most annoying features of a newer model. The Trump administration has said, you don't have to do this anymore. Told major car manufacturers, you don't have to do. Now, what I found was, if you look around enough, you can generally find the switch to turn that annoying feature off. But for most people, they don't know. They don't dig enough deep into their software or their control panel to be able to figure out where that is. And I know my wife, her car still does it. I turned mine off, so it doesn't do that anymore. But the Trump administration has killed that. One of the things brought to you, so it was Clinton who brought us the slow flow toilets, and it was Obama who brought us the stop-start car, and it was Biden who gave us, I don't know, what was that, dishwashers that don't clean one way or the other. Democrats love to give us things that we don't want. It's 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Time for the news with Ken Weaver.
It is difficult to find someone that you can trust in the HVAC industry, which is why I repeatedly tell you about Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. I trust this man as the day is long. He's got a great staff of people that work underneath him at Efficient Heating and Cooling. He does not strive to be the biggest HVAC company in the state of Tennessee. He simply wants to be the best, the most regarded. And I trust him, a small company with big service and big results in mind. He helped me when I moved into my new home. I put in a new HVAC unit. Thank you to Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. And now he wants you to give him a call if you've not done your maintenance yet on your HVAC, on your air conditioner. Time to do it. Plenty of time to get it done. And you get that maintenance guarantee when you get it done. And you never pay over $125, no matter how many units you have within their service area. There are elite pro partners with Rheem. When it comes time, they'll find the right unit for you and your family. All you need to do is make the call that so many others have made. 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or online at efficienthvac.net.
"37 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair on the air, filling in for Matt Murphy, who will return on Monday. I'll be here tomorrow as well. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Matt Murphy Show. He normally keeps a tab of which show it is. Jackson, if he were here, what show would this be? Do you know?
This would be 1016.
But he doesn't count them when somebody fills in, right?
He does not.
Okay. All right. So when he returns, he'll be coming back to his 16th show?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, there you go. Yeah, and they said it wouldn't last. I know. I'll tell you what, it's a good show. I tell you, I'm listening to Dan Madison in the morning, and I just love the things that I'm getting from this station. I do miss it, but, I've been getting to fill in quite a bit, and really do enjoy getting to fill in for all the different day parts and getting to, reacquaint myself with different audiences that listen throughout the day. I want to move, if I could, to talk a little bit about, the thing that's really, what really matters to you right now more than anything else? Probably it's the price of gasoline and the price of oil. That's what we got. That's the downside to what we're doing in the Mideast right now with Iran, is that we're facing a temporary hike in oil and gasoline prices, and that is hurting. And I got to be honest, and I have to be straightforward with you and consistent. As I said when I was working afternoons in this very slot, there is nothing that ripples through the economy and causes a bigger inflationary problem than increased costs in gasoline and gas and oil. When the price of fuel goes up, oil, diesel, gasoline goes up, well, every single thing that you do, that any product that you have to bring into market, any service that you need to deliver to a home, all of that, anything you buy from Amazon, it doesn't matter. It takes fuel to get it there. And when the fuel is costing somewhere between $4 and $5 and $6 and in some places $8 a gallon, then, you're going to see a real impact on the economy, unless it doesn't last very long. We often see these things happen. For example, when you have a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, and they have to shut down the platforms for a short period of time. No oil is flowing out of the Gulf, and they shut down the refineries as well on the coast, and you have a problem for a short while. But when that problem resolved itself very quickly, the price of gasoline and the price of oil, comes back down to a much more manageable level. So where are we? According to CNBC, I'm looking at oil. Oil is West Texas Intermediate crude selling for $98 a barrel. Brent, $95 a barrel, about 96 actually. And so that has happened. That's where we are down below 100. That's good. Gasoline, well, let's talk about where we are in Tennessee. Davidson County, average price for a gallon of regular gasoline, $3.98. Go right down 65 to Williamson County. Boy, you Williamson County people, you're really paying for a pretty penny for gasoline. $4.13 a gallon. Wilson County, $3.95. Rutherford County, $3.97 on average. Robertson County, $3.99 a gallon. Sumner County, $3.95 a gallon. Murray County, $3.92 a gallon. So, that's what we're dealing with right now. And does it hurt? Yes, it hurts. Will it get better? I think it will. There are some things that I think are mitigating factors to all of this. Let's talk about some of this. Newsmax, last year's record oil production in West Texas has helped the United States supply remain stable, despite stockpiles facing a tight squeeze around the world because of the war in Iran, according to experts. Nearly half of oil produced in the United States in 2025 came from Texas. Even though fewer new oil wells were drilled, the Texas Tribune reported this on Thursday. Nearly half of the oil produced in the U.S. comes from the Lone Star State. According to Texas Oil and Gas Association President Todd Staples, 10 years ago, Texas oil companies produced 9.2 million barrels of oil per day using some 1,543 rigs. Last year, oil companies produced more than 13 million barrels per day, but had only 582 rigs. Analysts and industry groups said oil production is up because of the state's extensive pipeline and transportation network, its geological makeup, and companies' ability to operate on multiple sites simultaneously. Last year, U.S. oil companies produced a record 13.6 million barrels per day. And of that, 6.6 million barrels per day came from the Permian Basin, someplace I know just a little bit about. Odessa, Texas, Odessa, Midland. If you've seen that show Landman, that's where that's all at, which spans West Texas and southeastern New Mexico. Hobbs, Lovington, Eunice. Oh, these are the garden spots of the planet, I'm telling you. While production rose last year, despite fewer rigs, it could dip 2% in 2027, the first decline since 2021. Texas oil leaders, meanwhile, said gas prices could have been even worse without the production from their state. We're cranking as much oil, we're drill baby drilled in America, and that helps us. Now, had this all happened during Joe Biden's reign, you would have seen gas prices go up a lot higher because we weren't doing the other things we needed to do to bring in oil and gas and liquefied natural gas. Here's another one. Remember that little thing we did in Venezuela? Well, a lot of oil from Venezuela is now making its way to the United States. Can you imagine what would be like without, here we go, Chevron importing 250,000 barrels of Venezuelan oil to the United States per day? Where would we be if it weren't for that? Where would the price of oil be if not for that? It could be so much worse. American multinational energy corporation Chevron now importing an average of 250,000 barrels of Venezuelan crude oil per day into the United States, according to the BBC. According to recent reports, Venezuela's monthly crude oil exports have once again surpassed 1 million barrels per day. Andy Waltz, president, downstream, midstream, and chemicals at Chevron, confirmed to the BBC that the company is importing the equivalent of 250,000 barrels of Venezuelan oil per day. Per day. The BBC detailed that the crude oil tanker Minerva Gloria recently docked at a wharf in Mississippi Sound carrying 400,000 barrels of crude, an amount that 6 months ago would have been impossible to bring to the United States. See, Trump was thinking ahead. If it weren't for the 400,000 barrels of crude that's coming in, if it wasn't for Texas doing everything it can and pumping at full capacity, things would be a lot worse than they really are right now. Venezuela is home to the largest proven oil reserves in the world, but its output capacity has been dramatically diminished after more than 2 decades of disastrous socialist mismanagement left the entire oil industry in a dire strait. Following Maduro's capture, the Venezuelan socialists have sought American help and investment to restore the nation's oil industry, which at some point was capable of producing upwards to 3 million barrels a day. We're going to be okay, folks. First of all, I don't think that this war, I mean, the thing that would happen, to me, it seems that if Donald Trump were to say, hey, U.S. Navy, U.S. military, stand down, come back home. We've destroyed what we need to destroy. We'll continue to have conversations with them, but just, back on out. I guarantee you it's in the interest of the Iranians to open the Strait of Hormuz once again in very short order, because they need that money coming into their country. So, it's going to be okay once we get, we get where we're going to go. If we can negotiate some kind of deal with Iran over the next 2 weeks, we can get in there and secure that nuclear material and affect some more positive change with the leadership of that war-torn country, then, we're going to be doing really, really good in the days ahead. However, that's got to go well. At the end of the day, I really don't expect that oil prices are going to be elevated for more than a few more weeks. I really don't. I honestly, I've been watching oil all my life. I grew up in the oil field. When you grow up in the oil field, you study this stuff. You learn a little bit about how it all works. And I've been watching the oil industry since I was a kid. And I think that as soon as we can sort of get Iran ironed out in very short order and back out of there, we're going to see the oil prices come down. And so I guess my larger picture is this. I think we're going to be able to walk away and say, we did something that this administration did something that has not been able to be accomplished in some time. That is, we went in and we bopped the Iranians on the nose and we got them to back away from their nuclear ambitions, and we solved the narco-terrorism problem in Venezuela. And by the way, we're cranking as much oil as we possibly can. And by the way, did you get that nice income tax return? There's going to be a lot of things that are going to be laid on people's table in the next few weeks, well in advance of the midterm elections. Well in advance. Things it won't take long, and people have a very short memory. So what I'm guessing is that there is still plenty of time to resolve whatever needs to be resolved in Iran, to continue to work with the Venezuelans, maybe do something in very short order on Cuba, and then sit back and just, chill for a while as we head into the midterm elections. A period of quiet prosperity is what is needed. And I think we're headed that way. I honestly do believe that. And I believe that as, you know, when people sit back and you make the argument to them, yeah, you can go and vote for the Democrats. You may be irritated with Trump. You may be this, you may be that. Go ahead and vote. But I want you to remember what you had when the Democrats were in charge. Do you remember how bad it was under Joe Biden? Do you remember how horrible the economy was? Well, Trump got the economy fixed, and we had to do this little thing in Iran to make sure that they didn't get a nuclear weapon. But we're through that now, and the numbers are all coming back online, and gasoline prices are down, and you've got money in your pocket, and the economy and the interest rates are going to... Man, if interest rates come down just a little bit, that would just be the thing, wouldn't it? And at the end of the day, I truly believe that we're going to be just fine going into the midterm elections. Now, if past is prologue, we were not expected to do well in midterm elections. But I think if they're smart and they give us a period of quiet, peaceful prosperity leading up to the midterm elections and give people time to reflect on the things that have been done, and for the Trump administration to knock back some of the allegations that have been leveled against it about this, that, and the other, I think we're going to be fine. I really do. And I think it's entirely possible that this drubbing that the Democrats are expecting to carry out may not materialize. And I'll tell you somebody else who believes that. A pollster by the name of Mark Penn. And I'll play you what he has to say about all this in just a moment. Right now, 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk.
The one and only Glock store, located just off of Briley Parkway on Elm Hill, well, just off of Elm Hill Pike on Airlane Drive. I want you to stop by and I want you to see the incredible Glock store. The retail space is something to see. They have more Glocks than you can imagine. They've got customized Glocks and stock Glocks, and every Glock is in stock because, you know, they're the Glock store. They have a blacksmith, or a gunsmith, I should say, not a blacksmith, a gunsmith that is on location every moment that they're open during the day, because they want to make sure that they have somebody there that can customize your Glock on site when you order your customizable parts. I mean, that's kind of nice, right, at the Glock store? So see the retail side. Go tour the rooms that are the Shoot 270 rooms. They don't believe in lanes at the Glock store, and they can talk to you about that. They can have a trainer help you refine your craft in the Shoot 270 rooms as well. And then there's the incredible manufacturing division. They ship all over these United States of America. Friends, I encourage you to stop by the Glock store and to mark your calendar for May 30th. It is the open house. It's a big event, raffles galore. I mean, giveaways, unimaginable giveaways. I mean, tens of thousands of dollars given away at the Glock store on their open house. And you need to mark that date down on May 30th. We'll be there. I'll be there. Dan will be there. Chris will be there. And I hope to see you as well. Go online at glockstore.com or shoot270.com and get over to the incomparable Glock store. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for Genesis Diamonds. The word that comes to mind when I think of Genesis Diamonds is integrity. This is a company built on a solid foundation with incredible transparency and honesty. This is why they don't have commissioned salespeople at Genesis Diamond. Think about that for a minute. When you walk in and someone's incentivized to sell you more, to upsell you, they're going to be pressuring you to buy that thing that perhaps you can't afford. At Genesis, they want to be family. They don't want to pressure you. So you're never pressured to buy. You're never pressured to do anything that you don't want to do. They just are there for a relational experience. They're going to walk you through the process, explain it to you, educate you, and then you get to select the diamond that's right for you and your family for whatever the occasion might be. Don't forget, only Genesis has the top bridal designer brands that everyone wants. Don't forget, they are your luxury pre-owned Rolex superstore at Genesis Diamonds, both locations, Green Hills and Cool Springs. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the true diamond leader in this community, Genesis Diamonds.
It's 56 minutes past the hour. Last few minutes of the Matt Murphy Show with Brian Wilson filling in today. Matt will be back on Monday. I'll be back here tomorrow to bring you another exciting edition of the Matt Murphy Show. We were talking before we left about, where we are in the lead up to the midterm elections. And I really believe, honestly, I think there's a possibility that if we handle everything just right, we'll be okay. Even though if you pass this prologue, the party in power doesn't necessarily do well in a midterm election. That's the way it generally goes. And if history is replete with examples of this, and so, that it's entirely possible that it will not go well. But one guy who's pretty sharp, Mark Penn, he did a lot of pollster work for Bill Clinton, and say what you will about it. I've always found Mark to be a straight shooter. He just gives you he looks at the numbers. He tells you straight from the shoulder exactly what those numbers mean. And he sees a way that Trump might come out okay in these midterm elections, that Republicans might do better than expected. Here is Mark Penn.
I think the whole question is, Americans have been pessimistic for such a long time. And here they see, wow, the plane is shot down. We actually can get somebody out. Wow, we actually can get people to the moon again. We actually can kind of capture those bad guys, right?
Yeah,
and
it's an American exceptionalism story,
right.
And it's ahead of the 250th.
Right. I think it comes back, and I think the notion that we also have advanced technology, that we're the world leader in, if he gets some good economic news and he could marshal these 10 other positive events, then will people want to keep moving forward with him and his leadership? That's really his opportunity here. That's what he has to do to be successful.
I mean, I can think of a 30-second ad or a 60-second ad that you would run that would say, well, do you really want to go back to brain-dead Joe Biden? Do you really want to let the Democrats mess up the progress that America and the world is seeing right now? I know people have this visceral dislike of Donald Trump, many of them. But I got to tell you, it's hard to argue with his performance. His performance has been remarkable. The things that he's accomplished. The Democrats, it drives them crazy. But he's very good at what he does. And you may not like the way he says things. You may not like the way he tweets late at night. But at the end of the day, you got to look at his policies and say, I like what he's doing. By the way, tomorrow on this program at about this time, the Artemis 2 astronauts will be arriving back on Earth. I think the splashdown is scheduled for about 7:04 p.m. Middle Tennessee time tomorrow. We'll be, of course, covering all of that. Boy, talk about your difficult situation. They got a 2-degree window they got to hit coming back from the moon. You go too shallow, you burn up. You go too shallow, you bounce off. You go too long, and you will have a really bad day. So, it's a very delicate thing they got to do, and we'll be watching that. You're listening to The Matt Murphy Show. Brian Wilson, and have yourself a great day. Be back here tomorrow at 3 o'clock.